morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is Jakub Popular, and I'm the host of the future Roundnet podcast, Navigating the Courts. We are less than 1 week away from the second Roundnet World Championship. This time it's taking place in London, UK. So, who else should I talk to than the mastermind and one of the chief executives of the International Roundnet Federation, someone who has already held the Roundnet Championship in 2022 in Belgium. And therefore, my guest is Fre Eskens. Fre is a dear friend of mine and we've been around the block, so to say, for quite some time. Fre has been involved in Roundnet since 2018 and he shares his stories how he actually got to organizing tournaments or World Championship, because it was never one of his aspirations. But in his words, we wanted to play more tournaments, so we organized more tournaments. Fre and I discussed various range of topics, and this interview got really long, even for my standards. Therefore, feel free to skip. We have timestamps, also on Spotify or on YouTube, and you can see the topic that interests you the most. Our topics include, but are not limited to, financing in Roundnet, potential rule changes, how to make sure to make Roundnet more sustainable, and of course, some of our personal favorite stories. So, next time in London, when you hear put in the scores and Fre screaming at you, now at least you will have some knowledge and some background of Fre, and you'll be like, okay, yes sir, because we want to make it the best World Championship possible, of course, the best in history. And you as a listener or participant, you will be very much needed. You as a spectator, oh, we appreciate you so much. So now with all the background knowledge that you have, you are more than equipped for the Roundnet World Championship 2024 in London. Guys, enjoy listening. Atake.
Future Roundnet.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you taking the time because I know you and your team have been busy. We are less than a month away with the second World Championship in Roundnet 2024 in London.
Mm-hmm.
And before we get into that, for people that don't know or haven't listened to the introduction, so guys, don't skip the introductions. They're important. You've played a pivotal role also in the Worlds 2022. But my question is, how did it all start, you and your Roundnet journey? Because you're one of the, I would say, oldest people in the years of service around in Europe.
Yeah. That's a very nice way of putting it. It started, so I'm from Belgium, and youth movements like Boy Scouts and stuff like that is very big in Belgium. I would say the majority of young people are involved with it, and then after they become 18, they go into a leader position to do camps and have activities throughout the year, as did I. And at a certain point, someone just brought a Spikeball set to one of the things that we were doing, and everyone was kind of trying it out. And there was 4 of us that really took to it, and it's a story I think that is recognizable for everyone. Like, you felt like, okay, I want to play tomorrow again. And then we got together, we played, and then the next day we played again. And then we felt ourselves getting better and better. And we were very lucky that there's just 4 of us, so we could always play. And then it just kind of took off. And that was, I think, the summer of 2017 or something that we started playing. And then, it's escalated.
I mean, interesting enough, not that this is a competition, but I started playing 2016. I saw it the first time in France at the German University Games where the guys from Cologne brought it. So, okay, 2017. But then you didn't stop just there playing. So how long was it that you transferred from just playing to also organizing events? Because obviously it's 4 of you, so a lot of fun. But at some point you wanted to grow so you have new opponents and new people, right?
Yeah. So the 4 of us, like I said, kept playing a lot. We were all from the same town, so we were close by. But in fact, then there weren't really a lot of tournaments. I think in the whole of Europe for one season, there weren't seasons back then. It was just there were like 5 tournaments all over Europe, and like we started going to international tournaments, just the 4 of us to the car. We went to Germany, went to Prague, we went to wherever, and we there were other Belgian people there, which was good, which was surprising. And we kept seeing the same people attend those events. They were also just as passionate as us and really into it. And then there was this one guy, which is people mistakenly might think that I am responsible for Roundnet in Belgium, which is not true. The godfather of Roundnet in Belgium would be Kobe Ceresia, which people who've been in the scene for a while might know him. He organized the very first European Championship in Belgium.
Oh, wow.
Which is one of the first tournaments we attended because we started playing in the summer of 2017, and then in September of 2017 it was the European Championship, and that's where we saw a lot of people, and that's where I first met Tom and Ruth, the guys from Cologne, like Lucas Schwandra and Nils and all those guys that were playing back then. And that's where we got in contact with Kobe and some other Belgian guys, and that's when we kind of wanted to organize Belgian nationals the second year, the year after that in 2018. And we kind of just got together, and we didn't really want to found Roundnet Belgium. We just wanted to organize nationals, but we organized nationals, and then after that, we kind of wanted to organize more tournaments because we wanted to play more tournaments. I wanted to put out tournaments for people, and that's kind of how Roundnet Belgium got started. On the back of the first nationals that we organized in 2018.
Did you then start a federation, or what kind of organization did you start in Belgium?
Yeah, so at first it was just, we called ourselves Roundnet Belgium, but there wasn't any official paperwork associated with it or anything. Officially became like a non-profit organization, I think, in 2019, the end of 2019. Because that's also around the time where USRA back then, because there used to be an S in there, got founded. That was around the time where we organized the first Grand Slam in April of 2019, which was like the first, well, it's now the ETS, the tour stops were Grand Slams back then. And we organized it in Belgium back then, and that's kind of when we started to officially make it an organization, so we could also, like, for insurance purposes and for when we ask things from for tax reasons and stuff like that. So I think that was around 2019 where we officially made it a non-profit.
So that is 5 years ago, so to say.
Yes.
For folks listening and are wondering, okay, what is this USRA or EUSRA?
Yeah.
The European Spikeball Roundnet Association back then, because the governing body was still recently, for the past couple of years, SAR Spikeball Roundnet Association, established by the company Spikeball in the US, and they also introduced new rules. The last new rules, for example, the major ones with the no-hit zone, was in 2021. But then it shifted, obviously. We're going to be talking about it as well, probably later on. But you went from organizing a European Championship straight away in 2017 to having Belgium nationals.
In Belgium. But to be fair, I was not involved with organization. It was all Kobe, and that's the first big tournament that I attended, and that was like my first contact with the European community.
Ah, okay. Are you still in touch with some of the OGs who played in 2017? You can
definitely. Kobe has been out of the scene for a long time, but I think I saw him a couple of months ago. He went on a journey across the world with his girlfriend for 9 or 10 months. And when he got back, I saw him, and we're still very good friends. And it's a lot of those guys, some of them are still active in the community, like Fre Eskens, who is now still part of Roundnet Belgium. He was one of the people who was with us all the way in the beginning. Other guys have kind of fell off and are not really into Roundnet anymore, but I still very good friends with all.
Nice. I haven't played a tournament with Frederick in Prague
That's right. Yeah,
2022.
yeah.
Yeah, it was also before that in Mallorca. So great guy. I think he was one of the leaders of the ETS Leuven this year.
Yeah,
So
correct.
organized it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was another amazing guy. Was putting so much work.
Yes,
It was what
absolutely.
I heard. A huge,
Yeah,
huge
and
event.
very good event. Yeah.
Were you involved with USRA European Roundnet at its beginnings, so to say? Because it's still a little bit unclear to me how it started. I know there was a conversation between a bunch of people in London 2018 at the European Championship, where also Benny attended the first time, Benny Bako, Lukas Schmandra was there, Nils
Yeah.
Grimm, and all these guys. Were you one of those people as well? Or do you know the story?
I do know the story. I wasn't at Euros 2018 in London because I had a volleyball game that weekend, so I didn't go to the tournament. But basically, similarly to Belgium, a lot of countries started getting, back then would be organized. Right now, if you would compare it to what there is right now, it's not organized at all. But back then it was pretty organized because people were starting to get together and get like structures going. And it was like, I think Germany was one of the countries that was very early, Belgium, Czech Republic, and the UK.
Yeah.
I think those were kind of like the big players at that point. And basically the conversation started because I think we were going towards, okay, we have all these different countries and they have organizations, but we feel like there's something bigger. I think one of the factors was also that Joel Graham, who was at the time working for Spikeball, also attended the London Euros in 2018 and kind of had conversations with a lot of those communities there, because at that time he was like responsible of the non-domestic community, so everything in Europe, everything in Asia. And I think a lot of conversations that started there resulted in those early communities of the countries I just mentioned kind of getting together, putting together what we would call a board now. I don't think they call it that back then, and started with the idea of having like a European tournament series where people can compete, and that's like linked together across different countries.
So you were not there in London, but did you participate in the EURA or EURA, let's go EURA from now on,
So
activities?
yeah, I did. The way it worked back then was a bit different than it did now, because it was basically every country. It was countries are part of the organization, and then it was like a couple of people from Germany, a couple of people from Czech Republic, a couple of people from the UK, a couple of people from Belgium. But it wasn't like this is the board member, this is the board member. It's more like every country had like, you can send 2 or 3 people to our meetings, but it can be different people, and it rotated. So it was more like these countries are working together, more so than these are the board members that are the USRA that represent USRA or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then we had first Grand Slams. Was the first Grand Slams were in Belgium? Then I believe in Warsaw.
Yes, I think one in Prague as well, and then
The
I think there
European
was
Championship in
I think there was
Cologne.
one more, and then there was a European Championship in Cologne. Yeah,
I will have Lukas Schmandra on the next episode. So I'm very curious because he's the guy who founded USRA and Roundnet Germany and also organized all these huge events. So I'll get in depth with him about it. So
it's been
very
a while
curious.
since I've seen him, but like back then, the community was so small. It was like every tournament there were like 60 people, and Lukas Schmandra was always one of them. So
He's also very loud.
yes, I know him very well.
I respect and admire him, like the things that he has done with his team and Nils for Roundnet in Europe or
Absolutely.
World.
Definitely.
I'm very excited to
and
talk
continue to do. Like it's crazy that they started earlier than me, because I think in Germany it's been around
2018.
Yeah, but I think they were playing already before, and they've done so much with the club in Cologne, but also with Roundnet Germany. Yeah, I think it's been said a lot of times, but it's because it's the truth. What they are doing is like the textbook example of like Roundnet organizations and putting in structures and frameworks to grow the sport. So truly impressive.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I lived in Germany for a long time and I've got to witness it. But let's focus now a little bit more on your role, because I would like to highlight that you said, okay, you learn about the game, you started playing, and then, okay, we need to organize something so we can play with more people. Have you always been like that? Some kind of person who is, okay, doing stuff and then thinking about the details a little bit later? Maybe also when you were younger?
When I was younger, not necessarily, but I think, like I mentioned in the beginning, I've always been pretty active in like Boy Scouts. It's a very like I used to do it for I think like 5 or 6 years as a kid, and then as soon as I turned 18, I became a leader, and I did that for 8 years as well.
Oh, wow.
Which is there's a lot of like it's organization for the kids to have like activities every week and do camps and this and that, but it's also a lot of organizing fundraisers to fund different things and working together with people, putting up events. So I think that mainly originated there, and is something that I pretty early on like really was drawn to and enjoyed doing. And it's something that I think I could do in Roundnet as well.
What are you doing as a job? Because people, they know you as the guy who runs Worlds and all these organizations and is very funny and is always the next fun thing that we are doing. But for people who don't know, what is your job? What do you do for a living?
I'm a software developer, which is
You have to think hard.
I think if people ask me, most of the time I just make them guess first, and not a lot of people go to software developer for the first time. But yeah, I've been doing this for like I think 8 years now. I'm like a software consultant.
Because I saw a post, I don't know if it was on Instagram or Facebook, a couple of months ago, where your company actually praised you that you're organizing or playing Roundnet.
Yeah. They it's like they were doing a like social media campaign of like highlighting different employees, what they're doing at my company, but also like if they're doing something interesting besides that. And yeah, I was one of the people they like interviewed to talk about Roundnet, talk about the IRF, and talk about Worlds that was happening in Belgium by then. So yeah, that was fun to do.
For me, it was very refreshing to see that also not only your employee, but the employers care about their employees, but also highlight the extra activities.
Absolutely.
Because it is not easy. I work in the school, and my school supported me big time with the time schedule and the tournaments and training times we could use the school gym for practice. And I know it's not everyday occurrence.
Definitely. And like I'm very happy with the company that I work with. And when I was like they know that I was organizing Worlds, and I think like well basically the 3 years before Worlds, because it got postponed a couple of times, and it was always something that was coming. But especially like I would say the 6 months before Worlds, there's a lot of time and effort that went into it from me. And like I was still doing my full-time job, and I was doing what was required of me, but I was doing nothing more than what was required of me, which is they knew what was going on, and they said it's totally fine. We don't expect anything more if you're missing a couple of like after work things or like a certain technical talk or whatever. They were very, very understanding, and they also sponsored World Championship when we were looking for sponsors with Team Belgium. They also put in a sponsorship. So yeah, they were very, very supportive.
I love that you said it and that the company actually did it, because earlier I had on Tom Schwartz from Brookline, and we talked a lot about marketing, financing in Roundnet, and some other ideas that I would also like to know your opinion of. But Tom said, when we talked about sponsorships, to look and start talking to people you know, and they know you, because it's very difficult to cold call, so to say, or write cold emails to get money from someone who doesn't know you. And this is a prime example where your company even sponsored international team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think for Team Belgium in Worlds 2022, I think we had quite a lot of sponsorship, and I think all of it was of companies or individuals or organizations that were somehow affiliated with one of our players, like they knew them or they had like a good understanding with them. And that's, a perfect example of that, I think.
That is awesome. A lot of people also were, I would say, maybe jealous when it came to your job, not as a software engineer, but you also work with Spikeball on
Yep.
quite a few projects in the past, because once I started, or we started, everyone's like, okay, I want to make money with Roundnet.
Yeah.
We called it Spikeball back then.
Yeah.
And everyone wanted to work for Spikeball.
Yeah.
And then you did it. How did you do it? How did you get the job that hundreds of other people wanted? And what was the job?
So I think it was we've had the Grand Slam, so that was in April 2019, and that's where I met Joel for the first time, which I met before. Is Joel Graham. He was like
Joe
the
Graham.
the community responsible, the contact points for anything like I'm organizing a tournament, can I get some free sets? Or I'm having issues with my order, can you help me? Everything from Europe that went through Joel. And he came over to the Grand Slam to play. And that's when I first met him. We talked a lot. And I think like we continued talking because soon, a bit after the first conversations about Worlds were already starting. And then basically Joel reached out to me. We had calls regularly about stuff around in Belgium that wasn't related to me working for Spikeball or anything. It was just in the capacity of I'm a part of Roundnet Belgium and we need support or whatever. And then at a certain point, he said that they need more capacity because everything was growing in Europe and they need more people responsible to help out, to help people with their orders or reach out, help them organize tournaments. And that's basically how I got on board. It was through Joel. While still doing my full-time job, it was like on a contractor basis. I did a couple of hours a week. And it was mostly a big part of was just support if people had issues with an order or they said we're organizing a tournament and we're looking for some prizes. I got to give them some free stuff, which is nice. But besides that, because that was around the time that COVID started hitting, originally the intention was for me to also go out to tournaments in Europe as a Spikeball representative, maybe bring some stuff with me to pass along, maybe even go to some conferences on like sports or like for PE teachers, stuff like that. But sadly, I wasn't able to do any of those because those events weren't happening because of COVID. So it was mostly the like remote support online stuff, which was also, I think, one of the reasons after about a year, I think, I decided to quit at Spikeball because I was at the time still doing my Belgium work. IRF was starting, so I was doing IRF or World's work. I was doing Spikeball, my full-time job. I also play volleyball, and I play Roundnet still and do tournaments. So it was quite a lot.
Really? You don't say.
Yeah. And that's when I decided, like after I think about a year, maybe a bit less, that I would stop working for Spikeball. But it was a really fun experience to get to know the company from inside. I really enjoyed working together with Joel. I also worked together with Tom Rogers a lot, so it was a really a nice experience. And then around the time that I was stopping at Spikeball, Hannah Gable started her internship at Spikeball, and she kind of took over my role. And then after internship, continued to work at Spikeball for, I think, 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, there have been some layoffs in the company last year, but that's beyond, especially my area of expertise. We know some facts and a lot had been said. Okay, so basically when you joined the IRF, International Roundnet Federation, a lot of people, there was a lot of criticism that all the board members of the IRF were working or were employees of Spikeball or heavily associated with them. But from my understanding, what you just said, you just did some jobs for them from time to time on a contractual basis. So you were not really their employees, because some people,
I was employed by them. I had like every week I worked, I think, between 5 or 10 hours for them.
Okay.
But it was besides my full-time job. It was like they weren't like my main employer. It was more like a side job. But at the time we started the IRF, I was still working for Spikeball.
So could you walk us through the process of starting
Yeah.
the International Federation? Because people think it just happens like this, and there is a brand new website, and then we got these people who work for Spikeball, and now Spikeball is going to control everything. The bad puppet master.
Yeah.
How was it really from the insider perspective?
So not too long after the Grand Slam in Belgium, like I said, it was in April, and I think it was in the summer of that same year, 2019. There was no talk of IRFs. IRFs didn't exist. It wasn't the concept as far as I was concerned. The idea it wasn't even there. Spikeball reached out to us, specifically Jack Scotty, who at the time was, I don't know the exact title he had, but he was like the vice president of sports development or something like that.
Something like that. I agree.
Yeah,
I
he was
remember.
very involved with like the SRA tour and organizing the big tournaments, and really focused on not the marketing or the sales perspective between sports, and he's very involved in rule updates and stuff like that. So Jack reached out to us where Spikeball was looking for a partner in Europe. I don't know if we call it NGB already back then. And anyway, a round organization from a country to host the World Championship together with Spikeball. Because very, very early on, Spikeball has been very interested in the sport and growing the sport as much as possible, and making the sport an Olympic sport has been on their agenda from very early on. And one of the things that you have to do as a sport is have a history of world championships.
Yes.
And there are a lot of other requirements as well. But Spikeball's idea was, we might as well start this now already, because we know 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line, the earlier we start with having recurring world championships, the better, because then we have a longer history of world championships. So they kind of wanted to kickstart that. They wanted to do it in Europe, the same reason that we're so far have only done it in Europe, because there's a very high proximity of a lot of countries in a small place, where a lot of people can attend, a lot of people can go to. Just a couple of months earlier, we did the first Grand Slam in Belgium. We had, at the time, it was the biggest outdoor tournament that had occurred in Europe, and the most nationalities attended in the world. I think it was 100 teams from like 16 countries, something like that.
Wow.
And the event went really, really good. A lot of people had a very good time. Some people from Spikeball were there. Joel, I already mentioned, but also Chris Ruder was the first time that he attended like a European event, and he came over. He also played. Because that event went really, really well, I think that made a pretty good impression on Spikeball, and which is one of the reasons I think they chose us to partner up. That started already in the summer of 2019, which is when we first started thinking, okay, if we want to do this, we were really, really happy to do it, but we first wanted to see, okay, we started looking at venues and start to see if we can pull it off or not. We started with that, and basically Roundnet Belgium and Spikeball were kind of working together, and that resulted in mainly Jack from Spikeball side and me from Roundnet Belgium side being like the single point of contact on that project. And then a couple of months went by, we went to different venues, we started talking, started working on the specifics, and we're talking more and more and more. And then we got to early 2020, which was when COVID in March hit, and it was pretty clear pretty early on that we would have to postpone. And that's also around the same time that Czech started talking to me about the idea of a federation. Because again, from the basic idea of we want to be an Olympic sport, Spikeball knew and Jack knew, we can't have the sport being run by a company. It has to be a non-profit organization that has like members and adheres to like the Olympic model. And because me and Jack haven't been working for a lot of months by that point, he asked if I wanted to help him found it with some other people from around the Roundnet world, which is what we did. We basically gathered, so it was Jack from the US, it was Kayla from Canada, me from Belgium, and then Gabriela from Czech Republic. She was very, very involved. She also, during the first Grand Slam season, the Grand Slam in Prague was organized by her and by Jacob. And then it was Martin from Chile. So it was those 5 people. Jack kind of knew Kayla. She was like a very big influence in Canada. I knew Gabby, and I knew she was like a very big presence in Europe. And then Jack also knew of Martin, and we kind of gathered those people together and started having conversations and started working on seeing what was necessary to make this like a thing and how we would go about it. And that's kind of where it all started.
In my mind, it sounds like Jake was Captain Nick Fury from the Avengers and trying to assemble around the world and convince you were Agent Coulson probably.
If you tell it like that, it sounds cool, but it sounds like he's flying to Chile, going to like, it's basically all Zoom calls at that point because everything was locked down. So I think definitely that first year was a lot of meetings and a lot of like, putting things on paper and making a structure and stuff like that. But yeah, it was kind of bringing together community leaders that were known to have like proven themselves or whatever, like putting stuff to set up events or to make an organization in their country, and kind of put those people together to basically do the same thing but on an international level.
Okay, I mean, I imagine that I work with a lot of people and worked remotely as well. It must be so difficult when you're on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, not only time zones, but have you actually met all 5 of you at some point?
We were never at the same physical location, no. The first time, because by the time, so Worlds was supposed to happen in 2020, it was postponed to 2021. But then I think wave 3 or whatever happened, and we had to postpone it again to 2022. By the time 2022 came around, Martin had already left the board because of other engagements, and Rafa from Brazil joined the board. So there, we and Gabriela had also left at that point because she's a doctor, and by that point she was having a baby as well, so she had a lot on her plate. And then Mir from Taiwan was put on the board. And Worlds 2022 was the first time 4 out of the 5 of us, because Kayla wasn't at Worlds, unfortunately, met for the first time in person. It was also the first time that I met any of them in person, because I've known them through screens for years. But that was the first time we physically met and got to see each other. And yeah, there was, I always compare it to like, it's like seeing a celebrity, because you're so used to seeing someone on the screen and them not know what they look like very well, but it's always on the screen. And then the first time you see them in person, it's like a bit of a weird experience because how you know them, but it's a bit different. So yeah, it was a nice experience.
Yeah, I think the right word is I re-experienced that. It's weird, but it's positive, but then again,
definitely.
and
you're used to talking to each other, but it's never in person, so it's funny.
Yeah, I still have some people like that waiting to be met, but I was fortunate enough to meet most of them. I think at some point I met more Spikeball employees in person than the majority of Spikeball employees that like met their colleagues.
Yeah, that's very possible. Yeah.
I was even taught, because I was in Texas. I met Logan, Cornelius. I met Skylar. I met
Yeah, because
Joel.
they're all over the US, yeah.
Yeah, so there was also a crazy feeling like, okay, I know more people from your company than you do. I don't even work there. Okay, interesting. Did you guys at least have a beer together and a nice chat? Not about the
Yes.
organization?
It was difficult because we were, and especially for me, because we were there as the IOM, but I was also there as like the main person running it from around in Belgium perspective. So it's one of the things that I regret the most about Worlds is there were so many people that I wanted to catch up with and have like one example that comes to mind is like Simon from around Ireland.
Yes.
He also goes way back as one of like the OGs of the early days. We get along really, really well. He doesn't play that much, especially internationally anymore. So I saw him in Limerick, which was really nice, that he was very busy organizing. He was kind enough to host us at his home, and we had such a great time. And then he was in Belgium for Worlds, and I think I said one word to him throughout the entire weekend. I said, hey, in passing, but I was doing stuff. And then a couple of days after Worlds, I just realized that I didn't talk to him anymore. So it was very, very busy. And there were so many people that I hadn't seen in such a long time that I didn't get to talk to. But we did manage to get a beer together Saturday at the after party with the IRF board members. And I did get to talk to them quite some. So that was nice.
What you just mentioned, I think, is a common phenomenon that also players experience quite a lot.
Yeah,
That you meet
definitely.
someone a lot, you see them every weekend, but you don't actually have the opportunity to talk to them, right?
Yes,
And then
yes.
you're like, oh my God, I didn't talk with him or with her again.
Mhm.
Or we just played, and then you're kind of acquaintances. And I mean, in your case, it was extreme with running the very first World Championship. I feel that that's such a shame. That's why I'll
Yeah,
travel, or why I started Mallorca for exactly that same reason,
yeah.
right? So we don't only
Because
play.
like tournament weekends are so densely scheduled, and you have to play, get it very early. Then by the time it's finished, most of the time it's pretty late. You have to eat, maybe you have to play the next day, so you go to bed, and there's so much rounded scheduled, which is good. But that's why things like Fresh, or what I try to do is, and a lot of people are doing, I think, is getting like an extra day before or after the tournament where you can like, first of all, talk to the people you're playing all the time and have a conversation that's not like, was it your serve or my serve? And also see the country where you are, because we travel to so many places. And then I remember one time, I don't know who asked me like, well, you travel a lot. What's like a good city to go to? And I was like, I don't know any of these cities. I've been there to play, and then I go to some shady bar for an after party, and then I play the next day, and then I'm most of the time out of the country again without having really seen it. So I really enjoy being able to take a couple of extra days before or after to get to experience those things as well.
It's funny that you mentioned it a couple of days ago. I had breakfast with a friend and she asked me, yeah, have you been to Hamburg? How is it? Any tips? I was like, yes, I've been to Hamburg. I came on Friday night, Saturday all-day tournament, 1 hour just to get to the fields and back. Sunday, the same thing. And I left on Sunday night and arrived at 2 o'clock in the morning, woke up at 7 and went to work. So it should be nice, but this is...
I know a great
what-
turf field.
It was a great turf in Hamburg. Interestingly enough, for me, that is something so natural because I come from a competitive sports family. So we would always travel with my dad being a coach, or cousin playing, or grandma playing. We just go to the city, see the sport hall, then sleep somewhere and see the sport hall again. When I work as a handball referee, same thing. So I could have been in dozens of countries, but you only know hotel where you sleep. And then it's not really traveling. And then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go to Schönbrunn in Vienna. I've been 100 times in Vienna. Once in Schönbrunn, I just got out, took a selfie, and then left. Okay, now at least I can say I was in the city. Right? Because always just the sport hall and then get back. So it's not as easy or as awesome as it sounds. It is awesome. You get to compete and everything. But it's also very, very tiring. Before we continue with the IRF, you said that the schedule of the Roundnet tournament is very intense and dense. Do you think it's sustainable from a long-term perspective, or were you personally thinking about changing there some things, maybe even playing format or IRF? Because as you said, it's a lot.
It is a lot, yeah. And I think one of the reasons it is a lot is, like we just talked about, a lot of people travel and come from far for just 2 days. And I think people kind of want to get as much rounded in as they can, which makes sense to me. I think maybe on a national level, it's maybe easier to say like, okay, we're doing a tournament over 2 days. We're not doing a mixed division or anything, but we play on Saturday and then we continue like the final rounds of bracket on Sunday, just to give us some more flexibility. But I think in general, people just want to get as much rounded in as possible in the shortest amount of time, and which is why it's all scheduled so tightly. And especially from like a world's perspective, we also have a very tight schedule. It's like 4 days of playing, but it's kind of the same. People travel from very, very far, and we want to give them, first, we want to give people the opportunity to play as many different people as possible, because that's one of the reasons you come to the World Championship, is to play, to get wrecked by the US, or to play like a team that you've never heard of from Taiwan and meet those people, get to connect with those people. And on the other hand, it's one of the challenges. In 2022, it was a very big challenge. Now it's a bit smaller of a challenge, but still, it's very hard to correctly seed everyone and have like a good starting like group stage, or have a fair or a balanced way of putting everyone into groups. So we want to have as much rounds of play as possible to give every team the most fair chance of getting the place that they deserve in the final bracket. And I think at Worlds, it's the most important to get it, and as like we want to have a representative end result of this is the ranking of countries, and even if it's being 15th or 18th, I think at Worlds even that matters to countries. So I think we want to, the more rounds of pool and bracket, and the more we can play, the more accurate I think that will be. So that's also one of the reasons we try to pack as much rounded in those days as we can.
Of course, and it is extremely difficult because in 2022, you almost had zero data. There were some tournaments, there was COVID, absolutely. And there was a very little cross-Atlantic competition as well.
Yeah.
And I know
like
that
within Europe, it was okay because we had a lot of like countries playing each other. But even then, there were a lot of countries that haven't gone out and played internationally. And then comparing North America to Europe, to South America, to Asia, to like Australia, it's very, very difficult.
Of course, because you have no idea. You think you're good, better.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I was in the US playing 2021 the first time, and I was one of the first players ever to play there, also in the highest division, and then the year afterwards as well. But maybe it was like 5 or 10 of us maximum till Worlds who played the best Americans, because the Americans also did not come so much to Europe as they have now started coming, not only for competition but for fun, not only to STS majors with a bunch of Americans, amazing people, or North Americans in Mallorca as well. So we have more of this exchange, and then we have talented people from Brazil, from Chile. So very not jealous, like it sitting committee job, because it's just you cannot do it right. You can only do wrong.
Exactly. There's no right answer, and I think the seeding committee did a great job in 2022 with what they were given, which, like you said, basically was nothing. I think one of the tweaks we made now, first of all, we have some data. There's more international tournaments. We've had one World Championship already. How representative that is we don't have to like, this is the result of World, so this is what we take, because in 2 years, we're a very, very young sport. A lot of things changed, both meta-wise and how people play, and both team-wise, like they can be all new players that are better or worse. So one of the things we did now to kind of hopefully help that is introduce a second round of pool play. So now we'll have 2 rounds of pool play before we go into bracket, and basically the first round of pool is still seeded based on what the seeding committee thinks is like a fair way to seed it. And then the first round, the result of that will seed the second round of pool play. So basically we try to combat, like an EDS event, we have a ranking and that's how pools are seeded. And internationally, we don't really have that. So we put a stage before that to kind of have already an idea of, okay, these are the best teams of each pool. They will go in the pool together. So we can kind of hopefully have a more fair pool play and give people more play against more different countries.
Because if I understood correctly, the goal of the Worlds is not, okay, you're the best in the world. Of course, that's one of the goals, but it's really to showcase that this is a sport played in a lot of countries worldwide, even though the level is still different by far. I think we'll see some crazy scores, especially with the dominant German, French, American teams against a little bit of like countries who've never seen a cut surf. And I've been in quite a few countries where I did the first cut surf ever, and it was very funny to see the reactions. I have quite a few stories on the flicks where people were just kind of like, no, this is not possible. I was like, yes, it is. Like, no, not possible. Or it didn't hit the net with the flick. As I said, I played in Philippines, I played in Colombia, I played in Romania in 2021, where they had absolutely no idea about the rules and everything. So I have my fair share of international Roundnet already, which has been a lot of fun. But so the point is that we want as many countries as possible. How many countries are we expecting this year in 2024?
So right now, like people can still sign up and stuff. We did have pre-registration where countries kind of like say, we are going to commit this much teams and we're sending people. And we have 36 countries that are planning to send teams. Yeah. So that's great. I think in 2020, we had 33 countries sign up, but then we had some countries drop out because of visa issues and they weren't able to make it. So I think in the end, we had 30 or 31 actually competing. So hopefully all 36 of the countries that want to come are able to come, and we'll have 36 countries competing, which would be nice.
I just talked to Genta from Indonesia, and he just texted me a picture from the embassy, literally today.
Yeah, like those preparations start so early because we get countries emailing us like half a year in advance. They need then a formal invitation from the IRF to be able to get a visa to come over. So there's a lot of preparation for those countries just to be able to come, not counting the financial aid, the financial means that they need to put up to be able to just get a flight here and be able to participate. So it's very much a struggle for them as well to get everything in order to come. But like you said, you talked to Kenta, so you know him. He's a very motivated guy.
Always.
And he does it all with a smile. So it was nice to see.
Roundnet Indonesia has been putting on some amazing events, Asia Games in Bali and everything. We've been in touch more or less for the past, I think, 3 or 4 years, because they have these crazy graphics and also the stages that they posted on Facebook. Was like, whoa, like this looks better than ESPN. What they were doing, like so much emotion. That was ridiculous.
No, absolutely.
When we talked about ranking, does IRF also plan on implement some kind of world ranking that we know we have in tennis or more established sports, or it's not really a priority right now? Because if I understand correctly, and this is going to be a big chunk of our conversation, is that all of you are doing it on a voluntary basis. So as far as I'm concerned, you are not getting paid. Maybe you get some money back, but I don't know. So first, maybe the ranking on a global scale, and then to the other part.
So it's definitely a goal. It's something that, like, the problem of seeding worlds will always be an issue, and it'll get easier and easier because we'll have more people playing, we'll have more World's Championships to refer to. But ideally, we'll have a World's ranking that just ranks countries, just at FIFA or whatever. It's something that we haven't worked on that much because we are a limited amount of people and we're all volunteers, as you said. So we have only a limited amount of time to spend. And Worlds brings a whole set of issues that we have to deal with and have to work on. But it's definitely the intention. One of the things we try to set up to work towards that is at the beginning of the year, the seeding committee was actually called the World Ranking Committee, and a part of their job would be seed worlds, but also bigger picture work on how world ranking would work and what that would look like. Unfortunately, we didn't get that many. Well, everyone that applied to a committee got a place in a committee, but then over time, some people dropped out. They didn't have the time that they were thinking they would have, or they changed their mind. Which is one of the reasons that we had to narrow the scope a bit and just make it the seeding committee again to just focus on worlds, which is the most, like, that's the first task at hand before working towards a world ranking. But one of the things we want to do as well with the IRF is kind of bring structure to Continental Championships, which would be Euros, for example, or the ARF, the Asian Roundnet Federation, also has the ARF Tour, and they have the ARF Championship. And we kind of want to provide a framework that all continental bodies, such as EURA, such as the ARF, hopefully at some point, North and South America can do like a Pan-American Championship and kind of push organizations to do continental championships on non-world years. That's kind of what we've been doing in Europe as well. It's worlds every 2 years so far, and in between those years, in Europe, we've had European Championships, and we kind of want to push that globally and have a very high level structure of this is what a continental championship looks like, that all the different continents can implement that. I kind of have like a standardized way of this is how it's played, this is the results from that, and we can use that to compile towards going to Worlds. And that also kind of looks not exactly the same as Worlds, but it's similar to Worlds in terms of it's like a squad competition and this is how it's played and stuff like that. But that's something that we're working on besides Worlds, which is kind of juggling two things at the same time. So we're not as far as I would hope that we were with that, but it's something that we've already pitched on our General Assembly to all our members. They're aware of it, and it's something that we hopefully can work with them to roll out in some capacity next year.
I mean, that is a huge challenge, right? Because you cannot have the same system for each continent in Europe when you have
absolutely
40 plus countries. I mean, just alone look at football or soccer for our American listeners, that we had just had 24 teams during the UEFA European Championship, Copa America happening simultaneously. They don't have so many teams. And I know from handball as a matter of fact, because my father was a national coach, so we always talked about qualification, how many teams can get to the Euros, to the Worlds. So you had to place till a certain point at the European Championship to qualify automatically for the World Championship. Then you have the coefficient, so only a couple of teams from Australia or Asia region qualified for the World Championship, some also from South America, and then less Europeans. So then you have some kind of balance, but those are already established sports.
Yeah,
so
it's very, very difficult,
and took a long time. I mean, I think I've read that the European Football Championship was only 8 or 16 teams for a long time, for a very long time, and lasted very, very short compared to nowadays. But you said it, you're focusing on the Worlds. You have to, in the words of my role model, Jocko Willing, prioritize and execute, right? You're 5 people, everyone's a volunteer. How can we fight this? How can we fight against not having enough people in the IRF or EURA when everyone's volunteer? People get excited, they sign up, and they drop out.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I feel, since I work also as the European board for a certain amount of time, I think around 8 months, that we would have people interested, but they didn't know where to fit. If we say, okay, fine, I need some people. So what is the answer to that? What is the mindset of IRF? You want to have more people in, but what can you offer them, so to say?
Yeah. And it is very difficult. One thing we've been doing since, I think, the start of the IRF is having the concept of committees, which is a group of people. Can be people from the board, but can be people from outside the board, can be people from outside of Roundnet that bring their own specific expertise or whatever. And they're like a task force. They have like a very well-defined goal. You guys have to do this. And then whatever the deliverable is, you bring that to the board. The board will then see what they do with it. We either, okay, it's good, it's nice, or it's something that we have to present to the General Assembly to put to a vote. And I think that's a good way of, I think some people need very well-defined expectations and deliverables. Like, this is the amount of time we expect you to put in. This is your task, and this is the deliverable. For some committees, it was like an example of a committee we've had for a couple of times, a rules committee. First time, we didn't have IRF rules. Everyone played by basically Spikeball's rules, the SRA rules. The first rule committee, the task was very easy. In a span of 3 months, we want you to look at the SRA rules and make them IRF rules. Basically, make sure that they're the wording is internationally correct, so that, for instance, it's all in feet and in meters, and that the wording is clear, that it's not specifically to American language, and maybe do some suggestions to clear things up. After 3 months, we want you to deliver this document. That's it. We want 3 months of your time. It's very clear cut. Other committees is a bit more, like the seeding committee is a very difficult one because they put a lot of time in, and the deliverable was give seeding for worlds, which is not very specific. They put in a lot of work, and it's difficult. Like I said a minute ago, we introduced committees again last year. A lot of people, compared to the ones before, a lot of people showed interest. Like I said, we put everyone in committees, but soon a lot of people dropped out for different reasons. Some of the committees were just canceled because we didn't have enough people. And other committees, like I said, for instance, the World Ranking Committee, we changed the scope to the seeding committee because it was too much work for the limited amount of people.
The question is like, what as an IRF can you offer? Let's say you take me, and not me being crazy in Roundnet and love it and devote my life to it, but a casual player. I studied marketing as an example. I didn't. I do marketing. But if I say, okay, I want to work for IRF, what am I going to get in return? Good feeling?
Nothing. Yeah.
Nothing.
Basically. And that's the same that we're getting out of it. And I think I agree it's an issue because a lot of Roundnet runs on passion and enthusiasm, which is very nice and warm and fuzzy, and we love the sport and the community, but it's not a sustainable way of doing something. And
exactly,
we can't give anything in return. All the people, like I said, a lot of people dropped out. We also have a lot of people that are putting work in. We have a very good observer committee that are working to have like a standardized test, so we have good observing. They work out a schedule for how it's going to work at Worlds. The rules committee, again, this year did a lot of work. The seeding committee. So we have a lot of passionate people who are working together with the IRF to kind of relieve us from some of the work so we can focus on other things. But they all do it because of their passion for the sport and the passion of the community. And like if I tell the names of people who are committees, Ben Dentowitz, Amelie Jolie, Tommy Drake, I can go on. It's always the same names that you see popping up again, who are putting in work, who are doing things, who are volunteering their time, putting effort into stuff. And it's just because they do it out of passion for the sport. But those people will run out, and the passion will at some point not be enough to keep putting it in, because we talked about it during the seeding. There's no right way to do it. There's only wrong way to do it. And it's for a lot of things, that's kind of the case. There's no perfect way to do something. And if you decide on a thing to do it, you're gonna get backlash. You're gonna get criticism. And that's a very, you have to be able to handle that and keep your passion for what you're doing, even if people are like, this doesn't make sense. What the fuck are you doing? This doesn't, this is breaking the sport or stuff like that. Because the easiest way to lose these kinds of people is to just criticize what they do without offering a solution, or without offering I will do. A good example is, I know Yaro in the Discord is known to be critical of some things, but I know at some point he said, okay, I will do seeding. I don't like this. And he vocalized that. But then he also took steps to, okay, I think we can do this, this, and that. And that's that's perfect. And I think the people who he was criticizing also appreciated that, because there's a problem, but there's also a solution. But the majority of the time is just people saying, I don't like it, and then leave a comment or send an email and then go on with their lives. They don't offer a solution or put in time or put in whatever. And it's can be very demotivating. It's especially, I remember doing Worlds 2022. There's a lot of things we're doing for the first time, so we're figuring a lot of things out. We're making a lot of mistakes as well, obviously. And I know there were times where we got a lot of criticism, or people were complaining about I don't know what, and it's very, very demoralizing, I think. Which is a shame, because as we said in the beginning, most of the people just do it out of passion for the sport and what they get out of it as for a community thing.
Which is, of course, difficult. And this is the conversation of chicken and an egg. Like, what to do first, what to focus on first. Is it trying to get money? Because money is obviously the big issue that I would like us to bounce off some ideas of how we could try to solve that, because there is not an ideal answer. I also gave feedback towards Roundnet Germany or Jura, but I usually not all the time, I think, but I try to always give solutions or suggestions at least. Maybe the way I say it, the tone may not be the best all the time, but I also, when I was on the board, I said, look at all the feedback or the criticism we get. That's amazing, because people show that they care.
Yeah,
if they don't care, they're just gonna go. They're not gonna bother. And you say, okay, I don't like it, you guys suck. Okay, here in, here out. Like personally, I work as a handball referee. I have this skill. So for me, it was like, okay, whatever. Yeah. But I know it struck a lot of people right into their heart, because I don't want to say vulnerability, but just the lack of skill set that you probably need to have, or have a thick skin. Like, okay, I'm not going to be influenced by someone on the internet, which is of course easier said than done if it keeps coming the barrage on you. But it is okay. I also ask myself many times, why do I keep doing this to myself? Like, when I think you ask yourself that question a lot, while juggling 5 jobs or 5 activities, then dates, girlfriends, and all this. When I used to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to grade papers, so then to work in the morning for 2 hours, then go to school, teach, and after that organize my IRCA for 4 another hours and practice and go to the tournament. I would sleep 4 hours a night, and I was like, why am I doing this? Like, at some point, I almost burned out, but it was definitely worth it. But then I started also questioning, and that's why I distanced myself from the sport for the past year, more or less. So it's like, okay, I really need to take a step back and see, what are we doing? What am I doing? Where are we heading? And is this something that I can help solve? Because what I feel like, I suggested this, I think, in some of the General Assembly meetings as well, alone for EURA or IRF, in order to get more people to commit and actually execute what they commit to, I would offer internships and letters of recommendation. Because if you are an official entity as an IRF or EURA, you can be 18 years old or 20 years old. And then you get, at least for your LinkedIn profile or for CV, you worked at an international federation. Okay, never heard of the sport, doesn't care. I don't care because it's international federation. Then I have something to show my employer, for a future employer. Okay, look, all my buddies, they were drinking and maybe working in a restaurant, nothing wrong with that. But I work at the international governing body. I had to speak English, I had to speak German, I had to do all these things. And then, because it's still kind of a startup feeling, you will learn a lot, especially when you are together in person. Do you think that also the group cohesion of the leaders, IRF, EURA, could be better if they met more often in person and actually had the time to, let's say, process the criticism and talk about this stuff and maybe complain to each other without having like bad thoughts? Okay, this sucks at this person again. And then 5 minutes later, oh, okay, I'm good. Because if you just talk to the computer, it can be, and it's for one person, it's very difficult.
It's very true. But I think it's so difficult to do that because for national governing bodies, definitely. I think I'm not part of Roundnet Belgium anymore, but when I was, we try to do meetings in person as much as possible because it's so much easier to communicate, and you also get like afterwards you can mess around a bit and it helps contextualize a lot of the stuff. And I think for internationally, I think there's so much value in having people represented from all over the world, especially as the IRF, and that outweighs the ability to be together, because I wouldn't want, even like from only European people, I wouldn't want an all-European IRF board. I think it's very important. It's also something that's in the bylaws of the IRF, is to have representation from the entire world, which comes with the disadvantage of it's always going to be online meetings, but that's just part of it.
I don't agree.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have said always. For the near future, definitely. Like, we're not yet at FIFA level where you can have like every 3 months convene at some nice center in Switzerland with all the representatives from all over the world. We're definitely not at that point yet, so I think for now we're still stuck with Google Meet.
Of course, I mean, FIFA, football, it's different beast. Of course, but there are other...
Yeah, that's an extreme example, of course.
I know what you mean, but when I was also talking to Tom the other day, and also my father, because he grew different sports, like a floorball, when it came in the beginning of the 2000s, and it grew like to thousands of players, and he had this strategy, and I talked to him a lot. But it's because I literally took what he did, improved it a little bit, and put it use in Roundnet, if in Munich or with the EURA board. Is that is one of the goals that we should probably be striving for, because you need those people to meet, be in person, especially if there's not a lot of money involved, when that's not the factor. At least it can be the factor of, okay, at least I'm going to hang out with cool people, joke around, mess around a little bit, and then do some work, and then I'm energized after this weekend or even an afternoon. Again, very difficult to do if you're playing at the weekend and you get in on Friday and you're leaving on Monday. So I believe that could be one of the goals of the EURA or IRF or RF, like in Asia, to also try to set certain amount of money, a budget, to go for once a year, somehow meet 1 or 2 days before the tournaments. I mean, keep the costs low. Because if you're the leader of an international governing body, and I agree with you 100%, IRF should be have representatives from all over the world, 100%. That they should actually meet, right? I'm not saying, okay, you go to a nice retreat in Bali as an IRF. I mean, if we had the money, yes, please. And you work so hard. But do you think, and now we're going to get into the conversation with money, because I believe that's a big one, is that we could allocate, maybe even if it's just 100 euros a year, but just start. It's like when you start playing Roundnet coaches, paying them for 5 euros a training session, just to show the appreciation. Maybe this could be some of the next steps that we can strive as international governing bodies, also national governing bodies.
Difficult. And I agree, like the first World Championship, one of our goals, because we think, okay, we have all these people at the same place. Why not kill two birds with one stone and also have our General Assembly at Worlds in person? Because everybody already paid the money. We're already there for the World Championship. Like you said, there isn't a lot of money, IRF, but also on the NGBs to get their teams there. The schedule was already so tight with just doing the playing and then having people have some downtime, that I think organizing a General Assembly in tandem with that was too much. So we kind of stepped off of that idea. But I think it would be amazing. Like the General Assembly is the meeting of the IRF board with all the NGV members. They could send representatives, we talk on stuff. We do that once a year. It would be amazing if we could do that even partly in person. Like if even half of them can join in one room and the other call in, that would be, I think, very valuable, because I think that's one of the, like you said before, Worlds has a lot of goals. Seeing who is the best is one of them, but having everyone meet is also such an important part of it, because I've heard a lot of stories after Worlds 2022 of people like having conversations or being inspired or learning stuff from other people, taking them back to their country and be able to do something with that, grow the sport in their country. So I think it's a very inspirational time as well. And I think if we can increase the amount of time that people get together, interact, and talk about Roundnet, talk about NGB and stuff like that, the more we can have that. But it costs money and there is no money. That's basically the big issue.
This is one of the reasons why I started this podcast and why we are talking, because I'm hoping someone who's listening to that actually can learn from it. Because I remember there were any information from the US about Roundnet from 2019, 2020. I learned a lot from Taylor Sanford as he grew his community in Utah and all these things. So that was definitely very, very valuable. The other issue that I see there is that most of the NGB representatives at Worlds are also players.
Yeah.
They are also coaches.
Yeah.
And as an elite player, the last thing you want to do is then again sit for 4 hours somewhere, even though if you have a good time.
Absolutely. So it isn't feasible.
I was thinking about trying to organize some kind of a coaching seminar during Worlds. And I talked to British Roundnet as well, I believe. Not 100% sure but when?
Yeah,
it is,
it's
4 or 5
difficult.
days. It is, and I taught the coaches in Austria, around Austria. We had also coaching camp, and it was a weekend. I mean, we could have done so much more, but it is also not a lot of time. But the in-person experience where I could show, okay, look where your hand is or your elbow, people could actually see how to coach or how to do things. That has proved to be extremely valuable. So
yeah, definitely.
I think we both agree. And now let's go and address the elephant in the room. How do we get that money? How do we get people like you? They get salary, they get some kind of money. What can we do to do this? And what have IRF been thinking about it?
Yeah, so it's like till now, the IRF, the only revenue stream for the IRF right now is Worlds, basically.
Okay.
In time, like I think all of like established sports federations have membership fees for NGBs to be a part of the international federation. Right now, we feel that we know we want a sustainable revenue stream, but we know our NGB members, most of them also have like difficulty financially. It's a struggle not only on the highest level, but down below as well. And we feel like we don't return enough value to ask of NGBs, okay, give us 200 euros every year. So right now, our only revenue stream is Worlds, which allows us to basically run the website, to pay for the legal fees, because we have like bylaws. We're an official organization. We need sometimes to change bylaws based on what gets voted on by the General Assembly. and to help put up worlds for the next century. After that, like let's say worlds is sustainable in and of itself, and we have some additional money that goes into the IRF bank account every year. The reason the IRF was founded, our mission statement is to bring Roundnet into the Olympics. And that's very, very ambitious goal. And I think if that happens within my lifetime, that's a huge achievement. So I think it's very, very, very long term. But the things that we look at is how do we get there? Because it's a very big dream, but there are steps you can follow to make progress towards that. One of the things is to be a part of the Global Association of International Sports Federations, which is basically an organization, and all the international federations are part of that. The FIFA is part of that. The FIVB from volleyball is part of that. Basically, every sport that's in the Olympic, their sports federation is a member of that organization, and then some. So there's other sports that aren't in the Olympic that are already part, and that's kind of like your first foot in the door towards the Olympics. To be a member of that organization, one of the requirements, as we talked about already, is have a history of World Championships, which is something that we're actively working on. But it's also to have a certain amount of members, a certain amount of NGBs. So that's like one of the priorities, to help get countries get organized and hopefully financially support them setting up their NGB. Is it with legal costs, or is it like get resources for people to be able to put time in? But then another big one is you have to be a member of the World Anti-Doping Federation to be able to be part of the Global Association, which is also like a yearly fee of like, I think 10 or 20,000 US dollars that you have to pay every year. And the GAES also has a membership fee. So there's a lot of money that needs to come in that we just have to give to the next organization just to be able to reach our goals. So honestly, paying a salary or just having like, here's $1,000 of a fee or whatever, isn't something that we have even talked about at the IRF, because we know the first, the second, the third thing to do with our money, all the way to the 15th thing to do if we have money. And then 16 is to have salary. But there's so many other things that we need funds for, and we need to put money into to be able to progress towards our goals and help NGBs and help people grow the sport globally in order to grow as a federation and work towards that Olympic dream.
Are you aware of the book The Richest Man in Babylon?
I am not.
It is one of the all-time classics on finance.
Mm-hmm.
And it has multiple rules, but basically, and a lot of entrepreneurial business books say it as well, you need to pay yourself first.
Yeah.
So 10%, 20%, I mean, depends from the book from the book. And because then you spend all the money and then you have nothing, you're left with nothing. And this, for me, I mean, you said you have 15, 16 steps, but what if you flip the script a little bit? Because I believe, this is my opinion, that if you don't put the money on the grassroots level, and those are the people who are putting in work, like you, like Jack, like you are board members, they will not stick around. So you will have no one to guide you through those steps. So in my opinion, you need to put a lot of money in these people, and yes, tax the NGBs. Okay, they're going to hate me for this, but yes, have the fees, because once you say, okay, you need to pay 1,000 euros each NGB a year for the RF, then NGB has a goal. Okay, I need to think differently about my finances because I need to get this 1,000 euros extra. And now when I know it, okay, what can I do? You can give them suggestions, right?
Yeah,
but
definitely.
People are usually very smart. And I don't actually believe it's money problem, because especially in Europe, people have money. People have money. We have a great standard of living. Of course, not everyone, but how much money do we spend on new iPhones or whatever? So the money is there. It's like, okay, how can we show that we produce enough value for even the average Roundnet player who doesn't care about IRF, who doesn't care about Euro, but he wants to go and play in a tournament? now he has to pay a Euro membership fee, for example, in Europe. And they're already like, yeah, I don't know. But then again, it's 10 euros a year.
Yeah, true.
Right? So if you really go down, because this is the thing that I said at the Euro board when I was in board, I hope I'm allowed to talk about this. We said the membership fee is 10 euros.
Mhm.
And then we collected it through Fuego. So then we also had the number of players. So we had some stats, some data. But I wanted to pass the fee for Fuego, which is like, I don't know, 89 cents plus percentage, onto the players, not on us. Because I look at the data, I look at the money, I was like, we're paying 15% fees. Like, what the hell? It's gonna be happening. They're like, no, we can't. I was like, okay, for us, it's 15 or 20% of the revenue. I think it was around 13%. I could be wrong. But for the person who's paying 10 or 11, 12, it's no difference. But do it times 1,000, and you have a huge difference.
Definitely.
So if we start there with such little things, tell the NGBs, okay, well, let's do just 1,200 euros. So it's 100 euros a month. You have 200 members as an NGB. Your players are not paying you yet. Okay, maybe they should start paying, as in around Germany, is 2 euros a month. But you need to ask for that money. Otherwise, no one's going to give you the money. You need to ask and show in return, as the Germans could do. We build the players, so we have a great ranking. You can go, you can sleep somewhere for free. And me being the marketing and sales guy, okay, you go and you carpool. For that alone, you save 10 euros. You sleep for free. You saved 30 euros. So that's already 40 euros in one tournament that you are saving, right? So give us the half. And then you can do this 5 times a year. It's basic math. But unless we start actually asking for money and take the money from people that care and not like, okay, for the Bali retreats, right? But for work, for paying the people that are doing the work, then I don't think we can move on, because your patience and time is going to run out, right? At some point, Jax, and it's simply not sustainable. So my question to you is now, if you had 1 million euros that you can now invest into Roundnet, it's a hypothetical question. I don't have 1 million euros lying around. I wish I had. What would you do? How would you invest it in the development sport? And maybe I'll help you. You'll start with paying yourself just 10% for the board. So then you have now 900,000 euros. How would you put it?
So my perspective is from the IRF. So I'll also answer how I think that can be used IRF wise. I think, first of all, like I talked about, there's like certain fees that the IRF would have to pay if we want to be part of the Anti-Doping Association, if we want to be a part of the Global Association of International Sports Federations. So that's a big chunk of money already. I think being able to pay people, not only board members, but I think make being part of a committee more interesting by being able to financially compensate people would be a good one. And I think, like, one of the biggest goals right now, so World is obviously a priority, but one of the biggest goals I think we have right now is try to get the number of NGBs up, because one of the requirements to be a member is have, I think, 60 members, 60 NGBs as below your federation. We're at like 38 now, I think. Allocate money to do that. There's like, Europe is already pretty well represented. There are some countries that still don't have an NGB that maybe have players, but right now there's one African country, Egypt, that has an NGB. For the rest, the entirety of Africa, they have no members. And I think there's a huge potential of having NGBs there if we can use funds to help them get organized, pay legal fees, or pay a person 6 months of their time to get everything in order. I think there's a lot of quick wins that we can get there of getting things set up. Hopefully, if we get like critical mass of countries going in Africa, then it's like maybe just in Europe, it just starts going on its own, because more people start playing. Maybe instead of an African tour series, they start going to different countries. They cross contamination, and people start, and it kind of kickstarts that process in Africa as well, which is great for the sport, but also great for the IRF in terms of numbers. So I think if the IRF would get a budget, I think that would be one of the first ones that we would use a majority for. Just investing in
Would you invest more in Africa than in Asia? Because Asia has also a lot of countries
Asia also has a lot of countries, but they
and a lot of
also
people, and they're
very true.
organized.
Yeah, very true. The reason I mention Africa is because out of all the continents, that's very much so the least one that's represented. Like I said, it's one country. I think Asia
Mhm.
has. I think obviously North America is where it all started. I think the second big wave was Europe. I think Asia is definitely the third big wave. A lot of countries are now getting organized. The Asian Federation was founded not too long ago. So I think in terms of investing money in putting up structures, I think in Africa is the biggest opportunity to do so. But that doesn't mean like $1 million is a nice amount of money. So it means I think there's still some left to invest in like existing organizations. One other thing, I'm just spitballing and thinking out that now.
Yeah, yeah.
I think there's definitely also value in continental associations like the Euro, like the ARF. I think it would be good if there's continental bodies as well in South America, or a Pan-American body that covers the entirety of America, North and South combined, just so that I really like the structure of having the international federation, having the continental federations below it, and having the NGBs below it. It's a very nice structure. I think it's very clear. For instance, everything rules related, is in the IRF, and then Euro is the tour stuff. Euros, I think it's a very nice separation of who has what responsibility, and it also alleviates the IRF a bit from certain tasks that we then can distribute to continental reaches, which then again gives us some more time and resources to spend elsewhere than, for instance, helping one African country that is interested in joining. That is something that's perfectly fit for a continental body instead of an international body, but that's something that now comes to us as well.
That is very, very interesting. And I just love the bouncing of the ideas, because you mentioned quick wins, which are very important, but also long-term wins. For me, quick wins would actually be Balkan countries in Europe, because they have a culture of team sports. And once when I jokingly played with Novak Djokovic in Montenegro, they joked around starting a Serbian federation. I was like, just give me a call, we'll help you sit out, sit out, easy. Because I know them from handball or basketball. They're very passionate about their games, and they have great hand-eye coordination. So we already have Slovenia, Croatia, Montenegro, Bosnia, Serbia, Bulgaria. We already have 6 countries. That could
definitely
be done very easily. Plus, you have a lot of people with that heritage in Germany and everywhere that could go and take it there and work with them. So really to be, as Europeans, organized and grow. But what I'm missing in everything that you said is, how would you use this money? Because that's how my sales brain is working, to actually generate more money. Because so far you've been consuming. You are the guy buying an iPhone, but you're not the guy owning Apple stock.
No, definitely. And that's very much not how I think. I'm not a very sales-minded person. I'm not a business-minded person. I don't have any experience in business or anything. Basically, I started organizing a tournament once, and that has just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. But that's
awesome.
Like all the experience that I have is from doing things and organizing, and that's very much a flaw. I wouldn't say a flaw, like not flaw, a region where I'm. That's not how my brain works. The same for why I put paying IRF board members so low, why I say I didn't feel like getting NGB membership fees already in, because I always want to return value first before asking for money, and that's just how my brain is wired. I feel like they aren't owed that. They also just are getting by with very not a lot of money, and they're just putting their timing as well. But this is just like, this is not the IRS standpoint. It's just me personally.
Yeah, of course.
That's why I answered that way. That's how I would spend that money, because it's just
Mhm.
investing in the goals that we're already doing. And of course, the IRF is a non-profit organization, so at the end of the day, it shouldn't make a profit, but it should have a sustainable financial plan where we can have like recurring revenue streams, or a recurring way of being able to invest money in NGBs in the community, but keep doing that year after year after year without needing major sponsorships or whatever.
Yes, and I did not want to point it out the financial side that, oh, you don't know how to do this. But on the other hand, like, to highlight that we need people with different mindsets from different backgrounds
Absolutely.
to
Very
bounce
much so.
ideas of, because let's say I could not think about your strategic plan with Africa because I had no idea about it. But now when I know when I'm good with money, okay, so then my brain's thinking, okay, how can we produce value and get paid? So then we can invest the money. Then we have someone who's thinking about the public relations, how to communicate this towards the public, right? So not like give us your money and we'll have the retreat, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And thus those meetings in person, the brainstorming, I find so important, because usually when you have a call, you have certain agenda. You don't have so much time to just like goof around, which is also very important. But if you have if you have a to-do list this long and laundry and screaming kids and you have to take out the garbage, it's very difficult to goof around, or maybe even defend it with your spouse or friends or yourself. Okay, why am I goofing around when I have so much other stuff to do?
Yeah.
Right? Whereas artists or the business people, they think, or they get their great ideas while not thinking about the job, right? When it's in the subconscious mind or just goofing around. So that is why I wanted to ask you this question, because I'm quite sure if I ask someone else, they'd be like maybe completely different answers, right? Because if we see everyone has the same answer, then it's like, okay, maybe we need to think outside of the box and bring in someone or ask someone who is complete opposite.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
And that's when go on.
The problem. Well, the IRS just consists of people from the community and Roundnet people. And I think it's like one of the ideas when we initially set up committees is to try to have people from the community join, like NGBs or people that play Roundnet, but also have like people that have nothing to do with Roundnet, have an outside expertise, can also join those committees. Right now, it didn't really has come to that yet. But ideally, that's how that would work. And for instance, British Roundnet has a really, really great structure as well, in terms of they recently became a charity and they have like a board of trustees. They have like people from the industry there's like a guy that was involved with the National Sports Committee in the UK at some point, that is like giving them advice. There's like a financial guy that's giving them advice. There's the tech guy that is also working in the industry that giving them advice, and they really surround themselves with like a really good group of people, a board of trustees that they can help strategize and have a vision. And that was initially the idea of committees as well, to be able to have people advise the IRF board. But right now, a lot of the focus have gone to round specific things, especially worlds. Maybe a bit too much of the attention of the IRF goes to worlds because there is a lot to do. But one of our goals there is each year Worlds is organized. It should have less work for the IRF and more should be already in place, which so far is the case, because 2022 was everything for the first time. Now we have some reference, we have some things in place already. We're still adjusting and tweaking based on last year, and it's going to be the same with this year as well. There's definitely going to be things that can be better, but hopefully in time, it will be a pretty streamlined thing that the IRF can take on, and they know what to do when, and that frees up some time to do other stuff as well. Because if I'm being honest, right now at World's Years, the most, like 90% of our time, efforts, and meetings go towards Worlds for helping British Roundnet something, doing stuff that is the IRF's responsibility, which is too much.
I believe we've just discovered a golden nugget from this podcast when you said the thing about the British Round and the group of trustees. So I'll definitely need to go and research into this.
Yeah, and if you're looking for podcast guests, then check Collard from British Roundnet is definitely a good one, because I've been working with him a lot with Girls 2024. I've been doing a lot of the IRF work together with the IRF board, but everything like on the ground, venue, accommodation, transportation, marketing the event, stuff like that, that's all British Roundnet. And his team as well has been doing a really great job at it. And like I said, they're putting up the charity and having a board of trustees in place is, I feel like, a very good, sustainable way of setting up the organization. So I definitely don't know all the details of it, but it's a very interesting way to set up, and definitely worth looking into or asking him about if you get the chance.
In the preparation for this podcast or this interview, I also wrote down, okay, how can we attract stars from different industries exactly to give us this point of view? So I'll definitely follow up and talk to Jack and British Round, because this is exactly one of the questions that we need to somehow figure out.
I don't have the specifics of who is on the board of trustees, but as far as I understood it, they're like respected people who have like experience within the industry that they're working in, and they're like good people to have on your board of trustees. They're not just random guys off the street. So it's a very interesting question to ask, like how British Roundnet went about attracting those people and how their collaboration with them works.
Fred, you've been on the board of IRF from the very beginning. Are you planning on continuing on this mission after the Worlds, or what is your plan?
So the term of a board member of the IRF right now is 2 years. It coincides with like Worlds periods. So we started in 2020. We have 2024 now, so it's 4 years. We've had 2 terms of. I've done 2 terms as a board member, which for me is enough. So probably after Worlds, we will have an election this year as well. Every continental region, so Europe, North America, South America, Asia, Africa, are able to have a member proposed to be on the board. But I will not put myself up for re-election this year.
Okay, so I mean, I don't know if it means something, but for those 4 years already, I mean, we'll see each other ladies in London. I want to say big thank you, and maybe this clip needs to go viral. Guys, if you see Fre in London, buy him a beer for all the
I don't think that will end well then.
And then no cameras, please. You can take a picture that yes, you met the Roundnet backstage legend star Fre Eskens and bought him a very expensive pint in London, but it's going to be worth every single penny. I can guarantee you. What do you want to be remembered for in Roundnet? I know that's not maybe something that you started this entire odyssey with the rubber ball, like what's going to be my legacy, but you hear it a lot. Have you thought about it when you were seeking down for your motivation of continuing juggling between 3-4 jobs and all the hobbies and little sleep?
Not really, because like you said, it's just everyone starts with just picking up the game, because at that point it's still just a game that you play in the backyard or whatever, and then it really clicks, and you keep doing it more, and then there's more, and then it more and more and more, and I kind of stumbled into where I'm at right now. So it's not that in like 2017 or even 2018, 19 that I set out to be like, okay, this is what I want to do. I'm gonna push this sport internationally, or I want to organize the World Championship, or even I want to organize the National Federation in Belgium. It's not really something that I set out to do from the beginning, but it's something that I think grew organically and kind of happened as much to me as by me. But I think the legacy that I want to leave, and I think will have left, is after Worlds 2022. I remember on Sunday we had the closing ceremony, and I really didn't do a speech or anything because I was just still very much in tournament director mode. I was just organizing practical things like we have to do this, and they have to come, and we have to do this, they have to get that. Okay, you have to go. Oh, the bus is arriving, so this and that. So afterwards, after a couple of days where I was able to decompress a bit, I made a post on Instagram, and I kind of like thought about the whole process of organizing Worlds then, and the 3 years basically leading up to that from 2020 or like summer of 2019 to 2022. For me personally, this is like the biggest thing that I've ever worked on, and I've like successfully completed because I was very pleased with how the event turned out. And it's like the biggest achievement I would say that I have done for me personally. And I think the really nice thing about that is it's also such a big achievement for the sport of Roundnet and for the people of Roundnet, because Worlds was a big milestone for me personally. It was a big milestone for the IRF and International Roundnet, but it was also a milestone for so many NGBs because they had to get organized, start a non-profit, become a member of the NGB, and that single event kickstarted so many different processes, because I think we went from maybe having 10 or 15 countries in Europe that are organized to go to 20 or 25, and there's like the rules were taken away is maybe a bad word, but moved from the SRA's responsibility to the IRF responsibility. And there were so many things that happened because of Worlds, and after Worlds, the sport continued growing. So as much as Worlds 2024 is also still a very big goal, and I'm very happy to still be working on it, and I look forward to, I think Worlds 2022 is such a special event for me that I think so many people look back to that event with great fondness, and it was a lot of things. So I think if people remember me as the person who put up Worlds 2022 in Belgium, then I'll be happy.
I remember the quote of the Worlds: "Make Fre happy. Put in the scores."
Yeah, and
that was beautiful.
I hope people do again so this year, because it'll be I'll be shouting it again.
Okay, and of course, it's you, but more importantly, it's the part of the team, of the inter team around in Belgium, and all the volunteers and all
Absolutely.
the players
Yeah.
that helped. I saw it with the Belgian players because I was there trying to help with the coaching, but it was also quite challenging because everyone's building up the sets, moving things, trying to get into the car because we lock the keys, all the fun stuff, but also which is very exhausting from the competitive side. You as a player have to do so much as Belgium that you just simply couldn't focus only on one thing, and the weather didn't help.
Yeah,
of course, people are a little bit miserable. It was very, very wet, slippery, and all these things. So this is crazy. So maybe you've already answered this question, but what is your favorite Roundnet memory? Maybe also as a player, as an organizer.
As an organizer, definitely Worlds. I'd put a lot of like the months leading up to it. I had a lot of least favorite memories organizing it, because there was a lot of going on, and it's very hard to. But like the payoff of those 4 days was definitely worth it, and that by far is my favorite memory as an organizer. As a player, not a lot of people know this, but before COVID and before all like people got actually good, I was one of the best players in Europe.
I love that. And yes, I wanted to say that. Yeah, I should have said that. I should be a better podcast host, say the good things about the guests, and not let them say, because then it sounds way too as me, like way too much like me. I'm also learning.
I think like those early days of the 4 of us from Belgium, like me and then the 3 friends, just driving to basically every tournament in Europe and meeting the same 20, 30, 40 teams there to play a sport that like if you think Roundnet is young now, imagine how young Roundnet was in 2018, and there was zero organization structure, but people were just running it. And like those early days as a player, that's one of my favorite memories. I think just in general, the everything that's nice about the community was also very true back then. It was a very welcoming community. Everyone was very, like everyone knew each other and stuff like that. So that was very much true then as well. And I remember we were in last year Euros in Padova in Italy. Last year, yes, last year,
in Italy,
2023.
Padova.
Yeah. We were at the after party on Sunday, and like a bunch of people, there was karaoke, a bunch of people were partying and having fun, having a good time. And I was sitting at a bar with Benny and Janet, two of the people who were also there, like 2017, 2018, like OG Roundnet. And we were just sitting there, the three of us having a beer, and we're just looking at the people, some of them playing for 5 years, some of them playing for 6 months. And we just had this, like, we were the old guys at the bar talking to each other, like we were there at the beginning, and now look where we are. And it was just such a like nostalgic moment that the three of us shared, and it was I really, really enjoyed that, and I really look like fondly on like those early days playing Roundnet, playing bad Roundnets, to be honest, compared to what we play now, but it was a lot of fun.
We did it the other week. I had some friends over, Danny, Megan, Levi, Stefan, like the European Roundnet community here, and we watched the old videos of us playing Roundnet because I brought out the archives from 2017, 2019, 2020, and we're just laughing so hard, like look where the elbows are. It's a completely different sport.
You look way less cool than you remember feeling by then, right?
Oh yes. We're like, oh my goodness. I didn't find, luckily for me personally, the footage from Bavaria Open, the very first one, 2021, where we actually met face to face.
Yeah. That's like, and where I met, like, I think Robin Dorian, I met for the first time there. Danny and Megan, I met for the first time there. Yeah, a lot of people. That was like the first post-COVID event that we had. And like me and Wout, my former partner, we had just gotten to know Yosha and Levi, Hassan brothers. We knew them for a couple of months. And I think the tournament was on Saturday. I think on Wednesday, we just texted them, you guys want to hop in a car and drive to Munich for like 10 hours and play a tournament? And they were like, yeah, okay, let's do it. And then 2 days later, we were in a car. We barely knew them, to be honest. And it was such a good time.
I remember I had almost the burnout. I think it was the most or second most tired I have ever been after a tournament, because that was during the most stressful part of my school year as a teacher. The last 2 weeks before, you have to have all the grades, so you write all the tests, then you have to grade them immediately so the students have time to get, like, to improve their grades. And we've been juggling with the field for quite some time. And then we got a ultimately yes on Tuesday, and the tournament was on Saturday. And I spent like 14 hours on my phone, like entire day, and texting every single person that I knew, because it was also the very first tournament with the no-hit zone in Germany, because Roundnet Germany didn't adapt the no-hit zone for that season. Right. And I was like, okay, who do I know somehow? Who do we know? And I was texting with Benny and everyone. We put it on Instagram. That's the year when Future Roundnet started. Yeah. And then we got, I think, around 30 teams in total in 6 days. And now if you look at the names, it's
a stacked tournament.
It is really crazy. And let's see how good of my technical skills are, because I'm gonna pull it out now, and let's look who actually played there in the past, and if people can actually remember someone from there, because I have it here. So I played a lot of tournament Frankfurt, where I'm Spikeball Tour Series. This could be. Oh no! I have to edit this out, but it is somewhere. I'll look for that. Okay, I'll just edit this out. Wait for it. because it was freaking crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
I think Marcus
okay,
was
wait.
there, Ivo was there, Luca Hades was
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
Charles were
yeah.
there.
I know. Pe- Okay, here we go. Okay, let's see if I need a Jamie like they have, like Joe Rogan has one. I need one. Let's not just okay. Let's see if this works. Wingo, share. Okay, so Fre, we are back by very open, the very first one, and let's look at the teams. We will not have names. We'll just have the teams. Oh yeah, let's start. Balletier team Da Vinci.
Yeah, and that was my Belgian team. They also came along. They also they
Berlin,
were in Team Belgium, so it's one of the best Belgian teams.
exact. Then we had Berlin 30. That was, I think, pairs, one of the first tournaments of pair.
Mm-hmm.
Canis, Bonster, Mario, and Luca.
Yeah.
Mario and Lucades. Future Cowboys.
Ivo and
I
Marcus?
don't know if. No, that
Ah,
was
the
the start of
Paindrops,
Future
right.
Paindrops.
Paindrops,
That was their start.
Cowboys,
Then
I don't know.
could have been me. I think could have been me and Leon, who doesn't play anymore. We also had Rafi and Lucas Tapken, who beat I think, Porcombian in quarterfinals.
Right.
Let's take a look at the bracket. Yes. Paindrops beat Hustling Brothers. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, Porcombian Hardcap 15-14. Future Some Hands was Benny Bachelor and Felix Arnoldi.
Right. Swifty.
And then Mario.
Because Nelson was playing mixed, right?
Exactly, because we did a thing with mixed that you would play mixed as group stage, and then mixed would go against advanced people.
Right.
And then 3 out of 4 mixed teams actually won. So we have Sebastian, Svelia, yeah. Julia played with Sven, her boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the name of, they won. Nelson
and Franzi, I think. Yeah.
But yeah, they played mixed. But if you look at it now from the Folga, so the Pro Division, Hustling Brothers, Pocombian, yeah, you Stepsisters.
Yeah.
It is pretty crazy. And I remember, like, who are these crazy guys driving 10 hours to Munich for a Roundnet tournament? Like,
yeah, and I think we arrived at like 2 a.m. and then we got up at 7 to go to the tournament, and then we went to bed again, I think at 2 a.m. again, and then we got up at 9 and then drove back for 10 hours to Belgium. It was crazy.
Those were I'm not going to say the good old times, because the times are also very good. It was just very different. Then we had another meetup in Frankfurt, organized where Lucas and Power, Azadre and Sima, they lost there in the finals, and then they haven't lost for like a year. But like when I look at it, it's like, wow, we had really, some teams are still around.
Yeah, definitely.
Max Schartmann from RDO Flixenferry, Matthias Bermejo was in Frankfurt. I had no idea. Just randomly meet these people again, or in Mallorca. It's like, wow, this is crazy. So we're going a little bit down the memory lane, so to say. But for me, it was also the golden era, 2021, 2022, where you just go play, have a great time.
And you can still compete with people.
Yeah.
Right now
it's what? You mean like competition-wise?
Yeah.
People got way too good.
People are very good.
Which is great for the sport.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I remember I wanted to play the Worlds 2020 and then retire, but then it got postponed 21, so I was like, okay, I'll wait one more year. Then again, it got postponed, so I was like, frick. Like, I have to keep on playing, and then luckily in 23, luckily, I was finally able to retire. And then you texted me, yeah, we need someone for Slovakia, and I was like, okay, maybe for the Worlds, like, make a comeback. No, like, I need to stick to my gun, stick to the decision, because there are other parts of my life that also need some attention, a lot of attention.
Definitely, yeah.
What I wanted to ask you is, as an OG original gangster, if people are wondering, what do you think needs to change from your perspective? You can say as a player, but also as an IRF board member in the rules. I know you're not responsible for the rules committee, in order to increase the watchability of the sport. Because when we talk about financing, we need to get and sell the media coverage somehow. But at the stage of the game, and it will be, I profess, after Worlds, if it's very dry, it's going to be very a lot of people are going to be feeling down because the results are going to be crazy. All of surfball, very few rallies. What can we improve, or what should be changed?
Well, I don't have the answer, because if I would have the answer, I would already try to get it to the rule committee. But I think what I really like is the rules committee that we have. They have a structured way of changing the rules, but also having open for feedback, and people can push for ideas that they have. I also feel like it's good that there's a lot of conversation. Like, people are critical of the rules vocally, and I feel like it's pretty well known that we aren't at the end stage yet. And I think it's good that that's like the meta is the rules need to change. We don't know how, but they have to change. I think it's a good mindset for people to have. And I really like for instance, Scott pushing for a lot of things and testing things, or Roundnet Toulouse is doing a bounce tournament, trying different things. I think it's nice that people are trying things, they're posting about trying things, so people hopefully get inspired and try to do things themselves. But I think the main thing is the IRF isn't going to decide, okay, here are the changes. It has to come from the players. And
really?
We have to, and then go to the rules committee, and then the rules committee will be voted on by the General Assembly. But the 5 board members aren't going to sit around a table, start writing rules that we think have to be put in. We want inputs. The rules committee wants input. People try things, test things, give feedback, and your call to action, if you have an idea for rules, just email rules@roundnet's.organization.org. I'm sure a lot of people, like, the next big change is going to come from someone who maybe has been thinking about it for a couple of months already, or hasn't gotten to it yet, but has some idea at some point during pickup, sends an email, and then that could start the next big rule change. So I think the biggest message is players should take the initiative of trying things and testing things, and talk to each other about what rules can change. And then if you have a good idea, or even if you have a bad idea, if you have an idea, just send it over to the rules committee if you want to see something added to the IRF rules.
Interesting. Another issue where I would agree to disagree with you. Yeah, which is exactly why we are having these kind of conversations. Because I know we have a lot of things in common, but I just love when I meet people with different opinions, so then I can think about my bubbles or my framework. And as you said, there is no right or wrong. Maybe it's the way I was brought up, but me being part of a coaching family, okay, we play according to rules that the federation gives us. Me being a referee, I'm not gonna go to the European Roundnet Association Federation, tell them, okay, I think this rule is stupid. I just do what they tell me to do. And even if I don't agree, I do it, because everyone's gonna do it. It's the law, and it's not the law. Those are the rules, and we have a very thick rule book. But of course, I was not aware, or I'm not aware what happens behind the scenes. So maybe also for me to keep this podcast up a notch, to try and go interview people from established federations, rules committees. How do they actually, what are their processes?
Yeah, and I agree that rules should go top down and should be respected if there are the rules. But I think part of being in a young sport that's constantly changing pretty drastically is, remember when the no-hit zone was introduced? There was a lot of discourse online and backlash, and like, we're part of a young sport. This is what's going to happen. Rules are going to change dramatically, and maybe that means that now the way you play is a lot worse than what it was before. But this is what you sign up for, basically. If you want to finish sport, go play soccer, go play volleyball. But Roundnet is constantly changing, which is There are going to be bad ideas. There are going to be rules that people don't agree with. I'm not saying that the rules we have now are perfect roundnet rules and the sport is finished. But I was pretty surprised when people were so negative about it so early on. Like, I know it was posted, people read it and were already saying this is not good without trying and giving it a chance. I think we're now 3 years later, maybe, and I think everyone can agree that the no hit zone was a very good step towards a better roundnet that's better for playing, but also better for spectating. So I think, yeah, we're kind of in the sport of do crazy things and contribute to the sport you're playing.
Yes, we are in a state of the world of constant change. And I was not surprised. I was also mad first half an hour. I remember today exactly where I was when I read it. Exactly. It's like these traumatic moments that you'll never forget. Because I spent 3 months practicing flicks, being over the net. And then this comes and I'm like, absolutely no way. But then you just start, you get on by, like, personally, I'm a very adaptable person. And I think it's one of my better traits, that I can adapt very quickly, but humans don't like change. That's the way we are wired, right? So, and what you said, where I said that I disagree, was that players should come with the ideas, and they should be tested, the ideas, absolutely. But the initiative should be from the top. IRF or even EURA, we have different rules of basketball slightly in Europe than in the NBA, like distance and everything, right? But then we need to go test it and maybe say, okay, guys, we don't have the perfect solution as IRF, but we're going to change something, and it's going to be massive. And most of you are not going to like it, but just get on board, because we don't know.
Definitely.
And I believe with this mindset, if we have this mission, okay, we want to make it more attractive for viewers, maybe the scoring needs to change, I don't know, and there are a lot of things, right? Then just buy into it, and if you don't like it, as you said, go and play a different sport.
Yeah.
But because inaction is also an action.
Yeah, I agree. And like a quote that I really like is, don't let perfection stand in the way of great. Because if you don't want to do anything unless it's perfect, but you don't do it because of that, then nothing's going to happen. Like, I remember when we made the IRF, we had bylaws, and we knew beforehand these bylaws are not perfect. There are things we want to change in a couple years' time even.
Yeah.
But if we want to keep reiterating and making things, like, we didn't even have members at that point that could vote, or we wanted to have something so we could start, and then later we can go back and reiterate and make it better. And that's why I mean, don't let perfect stand in the way of good enough or great. It's better to start doing something than to just sit around and optimize something that's maybe never gonna happen.
I couldn't agree more. That's also my mindset. It's better to have it good and done than perfect and never finished or never started.
Absolutely,
because you adjust on the web. On the other hand, I've learned, of course, the hard way, as usually it is in life, that it's very important to have perfectionist people who really wanting to have the 100%. So then you push each other. I became recently with the coaching app kind of a perfectionist, and I was like, well, but I haven't even uploaded it yet, or I'm not actually making progress. So maybe I need to dial down on the perfection, and I want every word to be amazing, a video. Then just put it out there in the world and see what happens, and then follow up on that. So, of course, it is very difficult. So cooperation is much needed, because we are in the unique perspective where you can influence the rules. But you personally, on a personal level, you can be the guy. You can be the next Wilt Chamberlain. They had so many rules changed in basketball because it was too good. So they make a rule you cannot be under the basket for more than 3 seconds. Right? I mean, you don't have to be so dominant, but you can still do your thing, do your part in changing the rules. And I think the rules will have to change at some point. And I will leave it to more people who are more qualified in this regard, because I also told my players, rules, okay, they may suck, but we are not those ones making it, so we just need to adapt. That's it. It was my mindset as a coach. When I was in Euroboard, things changed, like, okay, maybe we should also think about that, because at some point it is what we need to be doing if IRF is not doing it. Because I asked around in Germany, should you change the rules? Because I know IRF we're just following them. So it's very difficult again. But I believe people need to start doing some things, and that's it. Fre, this has been so awesome, and I want to end on a lighter note. So what was the time when you probably laughed the most on a Roundnet tournament or something associated with Roundnet? You were just like chuckling and just couldn't stop laughing.
That's a difficult question. I remember, I don't know if it is the moment that I laughed the most, but it's the first one that came to mind. It was the Grand Slam in Riga. No, not wasn't Grand Slam. It called ETS already. I don't know. It was
Grand Slam Riga.
No, Grand Slam Riga 2022.
Yeah, we played against each other. Yeah.
Yes, we did. And I think 1 or 2 days before, we had like pickup, and it was, I think, me, Benny, Scott, Levi, and Megan or something, and we had like 2 or 3 hours of just pickups where we just mixed around. And probably the reason I remember it so well is Scott took video and made a post about it, and just so many. It was such a stupid. We weren't playing very well, but we were playing good. It was fun. There were a lot of rallies, and so many stupid things happened, and it was a really, really nice, like, just playing high quality Roundnet with no stakes, just pick up. And I remember that at some points all 4 of us were just on the ground laughing because of something that happened during a play, and that was one of the times I was laughing more than playing Roundnet probably.
Because if we look at pictures from the tournament, you're usually always smiling. Doesn't matter if you're on the field.
Yeah, but like I really like going to tournaments, and that's why after all this time and not being that good, I still go to tournaments. I enjoy it a lot. I really like playing.
Do you know how many tournaments you attended in your life?
I have no idea. Someone asked me this. I don't know when. I have no idea. It's gonna be a lot. Not necessarily because I played that much on a year. I think I play a lot, but there's a lot of people that play more. But I've been playing for so long as well. And like even in 2019, we went to like already 6 or 7 tournaments a year all over Europe, which is basically all of them. There's definitely people with bigger numbers than mine, but I've done my fair shares.
I'm surprised that so many people don't have a list. I always motivate people to start making a list because you'll forget. But I do have my lists. I think I've been to 60 plus tournaments, and I haven't played for the past year and a half. So to say, where you can really, like, people are getting 40 tournaments a year, going crazy.
Oh, definitely. I think there's big numbers out there, I think. And I think especially now, like in Germany or in the US, like places where you have multiple tournaments every weekend, I think some people are crazy enough to do one every weekend. So yeah, I think we have rookie numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I still think like I'm already like in the better half. Like every year it's going lower and lower, especially if you count mix. I do count mixed as another tournament. So you play Saturday and Sunday, those are 2 tournaments, right? And there is one thing I've been really, there's a personal thing, wanted to ask you, because I admire you for this reason, because I don't think I'm doing a great job in this one. How do you become still so friendly, or you're so friendly with the people, with the players, your friends, yet you're also the power of authority or the leader when it comes to worlds? Because sometimes also in Mallorca, I struggle. I want to be joking around, but at the end of the day, I'm responsible here for everything. And I'm the one who's going to lose a lot of money or whatever. And then I may not be as relaxed. I may be more strict with things. Like, how do you do it? Can you give me some advice on this? Because I don't play anymore, so that helps. But I've always admired this with you. Like, you're always there with the group and you can be running everything, but you're still just one of the boys. Yet when you say like, okay, this is how we're going to do it, then people do it.
Yeah, and I understand it's very difficult. And I think maybe that's how you experience. Like from my perspective at Worlds, there were a lot of times where I didn't feel like I was really like repeating stuff to people and especially to volunteers or people from around in Belgium, because they were also playing, as you mentioned. And then afterwards, they played the entire day. They were so tired. And then obviously stuff still needed to happen. And I was the only person from around in Belgium that wasn't playing. So I was kind of like saying to them, where are you guys? And complaining and this and that. So I feel like it's part of it is optics, I think. Like maybe you don't experience that I just running around and being nice to everyone. I don't feel like I am all the time.
Okay.
But sometimes you have to be. Sometimes you don't have time, or there's no, like, stuff needs to happen. I feel like you have to, like, a good tournament director sometimes just has to be an asshole, and I think how you go about it can differ. But at the end of the day, sometimes you have to, like, I remember it was raining or something, and there was, like, when we were building up Worlds, it was raining, and we were working on the stage, and there was stuff all over the floor that wasn't supposed to get wet. So I was running towards the stage so I can start putting stuff under the roof of the stage, which is a very obvious thing to do. If there's like electronics out in the rain, you put it in dry. And when I arrived there, Wout and Levi, which are like two of my best friends, I get along with in very well. They were just messing around and doing stuff, and I just start yelling at them and saying, like, this is the most obvious shit. Just put it there. It's going to break. It's not ours. We rented it. It's going to cost money. Why does it take for me to come here for you to start doing this? It doesn't make sense. Just do it. And I was like very agitated. And like afterwards, no hard feelings. They understand that that's how I can be, especially when I'm stressed and I'm running stuff like that. To answer your question, I don't feel like I always do it with a smile. There's definitely moments where I don't do it with a smile and just, I wouldn't say yell at people, but I would say like be very short with people and be very unamused and just have them do stuff. But I think that's part of the tournament director role.
Is or event manager role when you're responsible,
Yeah,
of course.
there's definitely.
I think
Definitely.
what you mentioned is also so important because in Europe, we have this issue, I think, more on the European Tour Series tournaments, that they just last very long because players are not so disciplined.
Yeah.
And there's no one going around telling them start the games. I remember
I will do it with Rolls.
And I'll help you. If I'm not commentating or doing anything, I'll be screaming as well, make Fre happy, just put in the scores. I don't mind being the bad guy or the bad cop, as people probably know. But the thing is, like, once I think it was a mixed tournament 2 years ago in Mallorca, I had a big microphone, and I would call out the names of the players who need to play and start games.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, why are you being so asshole about it? I was like, no, I need you to start. And you're unlucky that I know your name, because I knew a lot of people. It was a big tournament. But for me, it was okay. I'm running this tournament. We're making sure people are having a great time and want to finish on time. We have the bus that needs to come on time, and we need to leave the fields. But I feel there's a lack of accountability, so to say, from the tournament director sometimes, because most of them I know in Germany, they don't get paid or they don't ask for money. They're all volunteers, and it's difficult to be an asshole, quotation marks, so you're just doing your job and not getting paid.
Yeah.
Right? So then when someone's agitated, they just lost the game, and they tell you something like, go yourself or whatever. Then again, you take it personally. So, okay, why do I do this? Like, I've worked on this for a week, and now people are just telling me to fuck off. Like, that's...
Yeah, well, absolutely.
But if I knew, okay, I'm making 100 or 200 euros, I'm getting paid for this, well, okay, whatever, Yeah. I think this is, again, something that we need to change the mindset, at least in Europe. I don't know how it is in the US or in the rest of the world. It's okay to get paid for doing jobs in Roundnet and to create more jobs within Roundnet. How do you see this maybe towards now the end, before we end of the interview?
Yeah, I think, like we said already during our conversation, people's passion and enthusiasm only go so far. There's an end, and people get burned out or people lose interest. And already a pretty small group, I would say, of even within Europe or within the world, of like, these are the highly motivated. If there's people like I talked about earlier, like, for instance, Amelie, you see her name popping up with every chance he gets to be involved. Yes. She's in Roundnet France, she's in Jura, she's on the seeding committee with girls. Like, these types.
Roundnet Toulouse.
These types of people, they're a pretty small group compared to people who just sign up to a tournament. They go to a tournament, they play, they go home, and they have a good time. And the passion and the enthusiasm of those people will run out, and it's not guaranteed that there's going to be a next person who is as passionate or as enthusiastic about it to just put in their time for free. And that's why we kind of need to swap out passion and enthusiasm with money, and then anyone basically can be convinced, because basically it's just people just want, they have to spend their time doing stuff, and if we can compensate them, then the pool of people who can do a certain thing becomes so much bigger, because we don't rely on the goodwill of their hearts to run a tournament. No, we rely on, you are being compensated financially to do these tasks, and it's as simple as that. Like, FIFA doesn't work on people who really like football. It works on bribes. That's maybe a bad example. But it works on money, and that's something, like, we're still a young sport, and it's all community driven and a lot of volunteering. But if we truly want to be an Olympic sport, I think we have to face the reality of this isn't sustainable of being a global sport if it's just based on we all like each other and I like the community, so I will organize a tournament.
I talked extensively about this with Ben Dantowitz as well, who said, for example, he gave a great tip that I actually started executed straight away, that if there are sponsors on the tournament, try or buy their stuff. So then you have a direct correlation. And in Germany, it was Y-Food, that they're sponsoring a lot of events. Then I actually tried it, and now I'm spending X amount of money. I have a lot of them. Actually, I should pick up the order. I'm even on a subscription now with them, because I actually like the product. Yes, the price may seem a little bit more for different to some of their competitors, but I'm supporting the Roundnet scene. I'm supporting the sponsors. So
absolutely,
I need to spend money on that. And this is what maybe my Jacob or Eastern European mind can comprehend. Like, why wouldn't you pay yourself? I remember talking to Amelie in Toulouse, and I worked closely with Amelie, was the one that was like, Emily, you want to be part of your award? It's going to be fun. That guy might does a little bit into DS, and I definitely think we had some fun. But I told her, like, you literally generate thousands of euros of revenue for Spikeball, organizing Toulouse Major. Pay yourself, give yourself 1,000 euros, and you're even playing. It's like, I don't know. I was like, there's so much money in it. Like, there's a significant amount of money, and you're doing the work. Someone else is getting the money for your work. Why don't you get? Like, I don't know. I had a similar conversation with someone who ran a huge tournament recently. Like, did you pay yourself? No. Why? Like, because if you don't pay yourself, and this is a big thing, and I would like to highlight this because I'll give a comparison from a diving industry. So if you don't pay yourself, where is the motivation of people who are going to be there? And let's say I want to do the work, but I cost 500 euros. This person doesn't cost anything. So me as a club go to this person who's doing it for free, but maybe not such a great job, right? In diving industry, I recently last year did a scuba diving dive master program, which takes a couple of weeks. You learn a lot of skills, and I'm eligible to dive and guide people underwater, right? But diving is an expensive sport. So you pay 20, 40, 50 euros, sometimes 100 euros for one dive, and you have dive instructor, you have the gear. But a lot of people are like, okay, I want to be an instructor, but I'm going to work for free. I just want to be diving. I don't want to be spending so much money. I just want to be diving. But then you have the instructors whose job it is to make money with diving. And these people are pushing the prices so low that it's actually very unsustainable. You can maybe be an instructor for a year or two when you're burning through your savings, but you cannot sustainably build a career or be there a lot of years, because eventually you're like, okay, I'm not 22 anymore, I'm 30. I had a lot of fun for 8 years around the world, but I have zero money. Great experience, of course. But if you have a lot of people say, no, I'll do your job for free, and maybe I'll even do a better job. Who knows? But you're going to mess up the entire industry. And there's a lot of issues in the diving industry, for example. And I believe there are other examples as well, but this is that I personally am aware of, because I was the guy's like, no, just let me dive for free. I'll guide people from time to time. No worries, no big deal. They're like, no, you have to have the permit. You have to do this because you are disrupting the industry. I was like, oh, I didn't think of that. Like, thanks for letting me know. Then I may do the instructor course, whatever. But I believe this is so huge.
Yeah.
And I talked to Lukas Schmandre about it. Around in Germany, the amount of work those people are putting in, and also money they're generating. I was like, I don't know, like, you guys are crazy. I admire, like, I don't know how you do that. Are you all rich? You know, not everyone's a software developer. People have also normal jobs. I mean, what is normal job nowadays? But the bottom line is, I know it from me personally, is when I do something with love and passion, I do it when I feel like doing it. If I know more people are responsible, or I'm going to negatively influence someone if I don't do the job, then I'm also more likely to do it or not give up. But if it gets hard and I'm not getting paid, or I don't see a lot of value, I'm like, okay, no, why should I do a hard thing? Maybe I'll do something else. And I believe this is exactly the detail. And I talked to the future Roundnet team as well. We need to go and be doing this, the little things that no one cares about, commenting on every post. It's not working out very well. Or liking or sharing, because those little things are those who make a huge impact if we keep doing them consistently. If we only have a group of 30 people in WhatsApp, every time Yura, IRF, or Future post anything, and they'll just comment, oh, good job, whatever, like robots. We would go through with the algorithm. That's how algorithm works. And it's everyone's on those social media, but little things. Why should I do that? No, so I think it's very difficult, and unless we start openly talking about money, I believe the sport cannot really go forward. And that's really sad.
Yep, definitely.
I should not have ended the interview with me rambling so much. But it's something that's really, really, really pissing me off, because I just don't understand. Like, I cannot comprehend, maybe because I have a migration background and I had to work very hard in a foreign country. I had to learn the language. No one was giving me anything for free. I had to work for everything. Really, I'm getting goosebumps. I'm not complaining. I had the opportunity. I chose to go to Germany, have 4 jobs, learn the language, learn different skills. And I'm very, very thankful for that, because I'm very happy with the place where I am right now. But I never had the privilege, for example. I don't know how is it in Belgium, but it was for me very new in Germany. In Slovakia, you go to high school, you graduate, you go to university, or you go and get some kind of a job straight away. In Germany, they're like, oh, I'll take a year off, I'll go to Australia.
Yes.
Oh, I'll do a social year, so I'm not working, I'm just like helping. I'm like, how can you afford that? Like, I was 18, I had 200 euros in my bank account, and I was saving all the money I got from grandma, from parents, for all the Christmases and birthdays. And then when you see, oh, they've been working since they were 15 in a grocery store, living at home, saving money, so they have 5,000-7,000 euros. I was like, wow, like, my parents don't make so much as teachers in Slovakia 20 years ago than they do. So it was crazy, like, wow. But for me, it's like, okay, you need to make money so you can get by. And it's not really just for passion. And if you can combine passion with the money, then it's awesome. But I feel people got, I don't want to say weak, but they believe, oh, it has to be fun all the time, also work. And then you get the reality check from the world when you start a job. It's not really fun. You're lucky when it's like 50% fun.
Yeah.
But I know I'm really curious how this is going to go. Like, what do you feel like? Where are we heading to wrap this up? Try number 3, because I'm just enjoying this so much.
Where are we going? I feel around, especially in Europe, at some point, like 2 or 3 years ago, let's say, I feel like there was an exponential rise in Roundnet. A lot of people started playing and everything was like booming. I feel like that curve has flattened out a bit. I think it's not going like booming as it was, but I feel it's still steadily growing. Especially like more and more structures are getting into place. Like the IRF by now is 4 years old, which is a long time, but it's also very young. Countries like Germany, what British Roundnet is doing with their setup, I feel like the standard is increasing every time, and I feel that's a very good like trend. For me, from my personal experience, I feel like the sport, and I think I've mentioned this somewhere already before, the sport isn't grown or made on the field, but it's grown and made behind a computer, people talking to each other, making Excel spreadsheets or making a document or having a Zoom meeting. I think that's where we need people the most, because we don't need the next Levi or Vini who is breaking the sport with crazy serves. It's nice that the level is increasing and competition is getting higher and higher and higher, and people are I feel like everyone is elevating their level on the field. But I also hope that, similarly to getting crazy reverse and cuts, there's new people coming in behind the scenes who have crazy tournament director cuts or can do the next big thing for the sports. Because as I mentioned before during our call, I feel like there's a very small group of very, very passionate people and duologs that make a lot of moves within the scene, be it at club level, at national level, at continental level, or at international level. And I hope there's enough influx in that group of people, because for me personally, after this year, I'll definitely still play, I'll go to tournaments, but my engagements within Roundnet will probably stop. Like I already stopped with Roundnet Belgium 1 or 2 years ago. I'll probably stop with the IRF as well. And there's definitely other people that after a while will stop doing it. And I hope that there's new people coming in with fresh ideas, with new motivation, with new passion that can make it happen behind the scenes as well. Because I think that was kind of also your setup for this podcast, and it's very true. Like on the field, it's very flashy and everyone knows who the big players are. Everyone knows who's got the biggest serves and who has the craziest plays. But to facilitate all of that around it, there's a lot of people putting in work as well. And I feel like on the field, the succession is guaranteed. I feel like a lot of new players are very good, and there's constantly coming new players out of nowhere and playing really well. And I hope that it's going to be the same for organization people, for behind the scenes people, that kind of guarantee the growth of Roundnet from like a tournament director, strategic, organizational point of view.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And I couldn't agree more. Surely we need the next generation athletes, the Jonathan Hades, the 18-year-olds who are going and winning tournaments and beating all the big guys. But also what is happening behind the scenes, right? People and flashiness sells, but it's great on Instagram, on TikTok. And this kind of job does not sell. We don't have a Hall of Fame of Roundnet.
No.
But if I ever get, maybe I'll edit this out because it's my idea. No, I think probably definitely people have already heard this. If I get again in the position of power within Roundnet, Jura, IRF, or whatever, I'm definitely gonna start a Hall of Fame, especially of executives like you have in the NBA. Like I cry every time when I watch a speech at a Hall of Fame, even if I don't know the person, but they show the highlight reel of the photographer, for example. I'm getting goosebumps, completely random dude, 8-year-olds from Japan, but been to, I don't know, 15 Olympic Games. And it's just, wow, and you're being rewarded at least some way, in respect of your peers for that. And there are so many people, and you've already mentioned them, and a bunch of them have already been or will be on the podcast, that deserve this place so much, because that's the least we can do for them to honor people like you, like Lukas Mandra, Nils, Tom Rogers, and so on and so forth. But I mean, it's not, if we had $1 million, like here, we love you, there you go. Perfect. Maybe one day. But who knows? And lastly, what I would like to just share with the people is we need to be patient. We are the original gangsters, but we've been around for 7-8 years. That is nothing.
Yeah.
The other day, I had a bike tour and with an older couple from the US, and we actually found out that we had a mutual friend. Our mutual friends.
I saw her story, yeah.
Yes. It's crazy because I told them, yeah, I played the sport. Spikeball was like, yeah, we know Spikeball was like, yeah. I also have a friend because they were big into pickleball. Like, yeah, I have a friend who's doing pickleball getaways. What? Really? What's his name? I was like, yeah, Preston. What? We know Preston. Like, what? How can you know Preston? Because they went on a pickleball getaway with them. But I also studied pickleball a little bit because now it's booming. You see Tom Brady investing, LeBron James investing in the sport. They have a major league pickleball league, and it's going crazy, especially in the US. But then I did some research. The sport was invented in the 1960s. The first federation was 18 years later in 1984. I mean, feel free to fact check me. And it's been only now, so 60 years later, then it's really booming.
Yeah.
So we're in so, like, the diapers are so big.
Yeah.
And we want everything super fast.
And it seems like it comes out of nowhere. Like people have pickleball came out of nowhere. No, it's like 40 years of people putting in work, having shitty Zoom meetings and trying to get something off the ground. That finally pays off, but people don't see that because obviously it's not super flashy or anything. But like you said, it takes time. It takes time.
Exactly. There is no such thing as overnight success.
Yeah.
But if you listen to even players or successful business people, okay, I failed 6 businesses and the 7th was finally the one that made me money. But let's just be patient. Let's try to do our work. I think what we all can get, and I would like to motivate people to join Backstage Stars, so to say. You get a lot of experience. You'll get free couches everywhere, pretty much in the world. And I've been using that. Could be a separate episode where I everywhere slept for free because of the Roundnet community. Just join out Discord and you are set. And you have such a great memories, right? And those memories, no one can take it away from you. And I would never have met you and a lot of other people that I've learned so much from if it wasn't for this little fun game.
Definitely.
And there are thousands of Roundnets out there, meaning different sports, frisbee, pickleball. And this couple actually, it was so crazy because they met while playing pickleball. They are over 70. And the woman, Judy, she was a widow after, I think her husband died after 48 years of marriage. And then she just started playing pickleball in her local community. And she was like, okay, she liked it. She started going to tournaments. Then she got a van and did the America road trip and played in every city, like in a lot of cities, and started going to pickleball getaways. And she met her partner now in a pickleball club in Tucson, Arizona.
Amazing.
That is, I was like, Judy, I need to have you on a podcast. So
that's such a good story.
Yes, and I was like, this is so awesome. And I know relationships that started because of Roundnet. And Chris Ruder said it at Worlds in his speech that he never thought this would be possible. To have people from 30 plus countries competing, laughing, having a good time. And this is what we have. We move, we do sports, we're healthy, we are socializing. And this is the beauty. And it's so easy and cheap to enter the Roundnet world. So
absolutely.
Let's be patient. And as Fre said, just join Backstage Stars. We need you. We need you.
It's fun. It's not glamorous, but it's fun.
Okay, this is a great quote. It's not glamorous, but it's fun. I think. Fre, where can people then find you or reach out to you when they want to take part? If they're still sticking out after 2.5 hours, more or less, where can they reach you and IRF to do their part?
The IRF, I'll definitely refer people to our website, roundnetfederation.org. You can also find all world's information there. If you're interested in joining any capacity or you're interested, you can email info@roundnetfederation.org. And if you want to reach me personally, you can email Fre@roundnetfederation.org. And besides that, I think that's about it.
Perfect. Fre Eskens, ladies and gentlemen, IRF board. And buy Fre a beer the next time you see him. Don't think twice.
I don't know how many users you have, but this can turn out to be a lot of beers.
I really hope it will. And I already see Levi running around with this clip. And this is Fre. The after party. Oh, dude, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking time.
No worries.
We'll see each other very, very soon. Atake.
Okay.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Oh man, this has been fun.
Oh, it's a long one.
Man, it started like we talked at the beginning. So like I just hit record at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think it took us like 10 minutes to warm up, but yeah, maybe I'll do 2 parts. I don't give a fuck. But I think this is what people need to hear, and we were having a good time. So like, fuck it, it's the beauty of
I
me
enjoyed the
doing it.
conversation.
But yeah, you're so right. You're so right. We need more of these kind of people, and it's going to be. I hope Tom and I, if we get elected to Jura, that we can attract them.
Yeah,
to
that would be
speak
nice. It
more,
would be nice.
more of their language.
And it's great to hear
So
that
to
Tom
say.
is like interested to get involved in that capacity, because I feel like he really gotten to know Roundnet over the last year, and he really like has a connection with it now.
Yeah,